The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? This is Young Lion King Carl Fredericks, and you're listening to Keepin' It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll be reviewing the 49th anniversary show and the first few nights of the New Japan Cup, answering your questions and covering all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network or to Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, proWrestlingTees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing very, very well. You know why?
Why? Because
I had a tweet that was received well in the wrestling community for the first time ever. I told everybody that, if fireworks are what they're looking for, then the New Japan Cup has those aplenty. And people, for whatever reason, seem to really like that tweet. I don't know.
Well, I think you reached the hearts of a certain fan base. I
think there's a demographic that I could actually probably appeal to if I want to, go that route. There's a gimmick here.
Yeah, there's a certain camp of New Japan fans. I think you definitely you won them over. You got over big with them with that tweet.
All 22 of them.
Oh man, well
I rolled deep, dog. It's great.
We have an explosive episode here for you guys this evening as we.
Speaking of explosions,
there goes a truly.
The best thing about these AEW pay-per-views, it's not the pay-per-views themselves, it's the drinks that get left behind here at the dojo afterwards. They keep me, nice and lubricated for these podcasts, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. Well, got some shows to talk about. Let's jump into stuff. So first we had the 49th anniversary show last Thursday, which also kicked off the beginning of the New Japan Cup. So,
yeah, bro, this has been. Let me just address this first. There have been so many shows in such a short period of time. I think this is. We should just give a disclaimer here. Did you watch the undercards of these New Japan Cup shows?
I watched the full 49th anniversary show, but for the standalone New Japan Cup shows, I did not watch any undercards.
I watched a couple matches from the undercards because, I cherry picked, but overall, I was not watching. I think this is the first time in the illustrious history of this podcast that we've elected to not watch any of the undercards, maybe for G1s.
I think there might have been a few G1s.
Might have been some G1s, but for the most part, for New Japan Cup, we've never done that,
right?
For sure. I mean, this is crazy. We literally had the 49th, and then the next day?
Next day was, yeah.
Yeah, and the New Japan Cup basically started at the 49th anniversary. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4. We had the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and then today there was another show. So basically 5 shows back to back to back. It's crazy.
And plus, we watch other wrestling. We watched Revolution on Sunday as well.
I mean, I did watch that, but I really don't watch other wrestling. Like, that's the thing. Like, people always hit me up. Like, you see this Noah show? Nah. You see this Stardom show? Nah. I
haven't seen the 10th anniversary Stardom show, which I heard amazing reviews about. You check out the One Nation Radio. It's a separate standalone episode reviewing the anniversary show.
Yeah, I didn't like that because I started the show and I was like, okay, cool. They're excited about this Stardom show. It's, they're going to review it. And then like halfway through, I realized like, oh, they're only going to review this Stardom show. And I was like, click.
Wow, living the gimmick.
Happy Women's Appreciation Month. No, in all seriousness, though, like I would like to check out that show. I don't really watch Stardom. It's not even because I don't like Joshi. I do like Joshi. The time constraints are crazy.
Yeah, man, a lot of stuff going on. In our personal lives and in the wrestling world. Yeah, it's hard to keep up with everything, man. But we'll still do our best here to give you the best coverage of these New Japan Cup matches, and of course,
well, I have an excuse. Like, it was my girlfriend's birthday weekend, so I was busy. I mean, I don't know what you were doing,
dude. I was working. I was working from like 6 a.m. on Saturday, and then I had a buddy's engagement party. It was a crazy weekend.
Man, you need to restructure your priorities, man.
Oh, yeah, I was going to mention, New Japan Cup, our contest is going on. You can go to sportprowrestling.com/kiss to check your rankings and standings to see where you are in the competition. A little bit over 100 people in the contest.
Now, here's the thing. Chris thinks he's slick. He went ahead and did this contest for multiple people. Well, guess what? I entered all of them. And you know what else I did? I went full hard. Same bracket for every single competition. So I'm either going to lose big or win big. I put my money where my mouth is. And by money, I mean no money. just my entries. I'm sitting at I got 3 wrong and 13 right? No, 10. We got another 3 matches coming up, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at 10-3. And I feel very confident I'm going to end the first round 13-3. You know where you're at?
Yeah, I have a 10 so far correct in the first round. And then we'll see what happens with these next 3 matches. But essentially, my bracket's pretty much blown up with Shingo. We'll talk about it here in a second. Shingo defeating Okada. Blew my bracket up because I had Okada in the final 4. In the finals, I had Okada Ospreay as my finals. So
I thought you were a Kojima fan. You need to start using some Kojima math and tell yourself like it doesn't matter what I've lost so far. I might still win this thing.
Hey, it's true. Other people's brackets could blow up down the road.
Yeah,
so
you don't know what's going to happen.
We'll see what happens here.
I've got a bold bracket. I got Jeff Cobb beating Evil, so
that is bold. I mean, I hope it happens. I want that to happen, but we'll see.
Which means we got an Okan Cobb interpromotionary or interfaction match coming up. Let's talk about these shows. You want to start with the 49th anniversary?
Yeah, let's start with the 49th anniversary.
Was this the least anniversary feeling anniversary show we've covered on this show? It felt like that to me.
Yeah. It felt just kind of almost like a standard, just kind of, New Japan Road Korakuen show.
They weren't at Korakuen, though. They were at Budokan, right?
Yes.
Which is not what they typically run for their anniversary show either.
Normally they run the Ota Ward Gymnasium.
Right. In celebration of that being where they had their first show. That Gymnasium does, I think, like 5K, basically. Mm-hmm. I don't really... Now, here's the hard part. I don't know what parameters are in place right now with the state of emergency, because I saw the news that some of the prefectures were opening up things and then some of them were not, So mm-hmm. I don't really know what's in place and what's not in place, so it's hard for me to tell, what numbers are good, what numbers are bad, when they're running, why they're running, that sort of thing,
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to analyze numbers in the pandemic era. It's just hard to do because, like you mentioned, there's the restrictions. You just don't know people feel safe about going. There's just so much that goes into the details. Like you mentioned, different prefectures have different rulings, and so, yeah, it's just really hard to analyze in the pandemic era, and it's almost like a waste of time, honestly.
Yeah. But the nice thing here, this 49th anniversary show, is start off with, you your standard preview tag matches. We could probably run through them. There wasn't a lot here. Gabe Kidd, Hiroki Goto, Master Wato, and Tomoaki Honma. They defeated the Suzuki-gun team of Doki, Suzuki, Taichi, and Zack Sabre Jr. Quite a few New Japan Cup, first round matches that were being previewed there. Match was fine. The second match of the night, we had the Bullet Club team of Chase Owens, Evil, Jay White, Kenta, and Taiji Ishimori with Dick Togo and Gato. They defeated the team of Finjuice, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Rizuki Taguchi, and Toa Hanare. Some of the talking points came out of here. Juice Robinson's new look.
Yeah. I actually I like it.
I like his physique. He is in ring shape. Like, this is the best physique he's had since like his match with Mox at the Super Juniors like 2 years ago. So that's great.
Yeah, I like the afro.
I don't like the afro. Now, I like the afro because I see it like this. This is basically like the second transformation of Cell. Like, it's not my favorite, but we're getting closer to what I know is possible.
You think
he has another form
dread back up?
I think he is going for the dreads or something along those lines. But the look is dreadful. I mean, he's got literally a jester's attire on and a giant afro, which tells me he's a clown. and I think that's a sign of things to come for this tournament for him. But as far as his physique, I think he's in between, Tian might be able to beat him right now, but in the next form, that shit's not going down that way. This man's gonna belt this man up again. So, the big talking point coming out of this match though was post-match Toa Hanare really showing a lot of like fire and going after Jay White and having to be held back. So that kind of seems like to be the big program being built out of this, really.
Yeah, building up for their first round match that's coming up.
Third match of the night, Chaos team of Okada, Sho, and Ishii defeated the LIJ team of Bushi, Sanada, Shingo Takagi. Quite a few, preview matches there as well. And that pretty much does it for the, multi-man tag undercard.
Yep, so then we had the first round action in New Japan Cup. The first round match was Jeff Cobb, the Hatchet, defeating my man Satoshi Kojima, 11 minutes and 50 seconds. That was a great way to kick the tournament off. Very hard-hitting matchup here. Cobb, just freaky strength, throwing around Kojima. A lot of great near falls. Kojima had pinned Cobb the weekend before Castle Attack with the lariat. There was a point in the match where he hit the lariat with the left arm, not with the strongest arm. Got a great near fall there. But ultimately, Kojima would fall to Tour of the Islands.
Kojima, you look at the string of big singles matches he's had the first 3 months of this year. The Kenta match, the Will Ospreay match, and then this Cobb match. I mean, he's kind of low-key, like, building a little bit of a resume. It might even be, at this point of the year, it's probably not going to last, but right now, maybe, like, a Wrestler of the Year candidate, like, possibly. If he'd put some of those matches together in the same month, we could even be talking about, like, a Wrestler of the Month sort of, category for this guy.
Yeah.
Jeff Cobb's kind of in the same position. Performing at a consistently high level in New Japan. It seems that this heel turn has really reinvigorated him. And this match was really great. 11 minutes. They didn't overstay their welcome. This was very hard-hitting, very fast-paced. Exactly what I want out of these two guys. And, I don't think at this point Kojima should be going life and death with Jeff Cobb, but he gave him a really good test, gave him a very exciting and compelling match. And, I was super into this. I thought this match was awesome, especially for the time.
Yeah, like you mentioned, there's a lot of urgency from Cobb, I think just based off of, being pinned by Kojima at Castle Attack, and he kind of wanted to get the thing over, but Kojima wasn't going down that easily and kept fighting back and fighting through Cobb's offense.
And the big thing there, too, is he defeated him with the lariat. Looking back over, like, say, Chris Samsa's stats, in singles matches, Kojima hasn't, like, defeated someone without using that lariat in years at this point. Right. That was kind of highlighted during the KOPW tournament when he wasn't allowed to use the lariat against
Despi.
Desperado. So That's always sort of like his game changer if he can land that. And that was kind of the story here. And unfortunately, he was never able to fully get, the strongest lariat on him. Hit him with a couple variants, that sort of thing. But Jeff Cobb was just too much for him on this night. Hit him with the Tour of the Islands and, picked up his first big win here in this year's New Japan Cup.
Yeah. Then we move on to the second first-round match that we had this night. It was the Great Okan pulling a big upset here, defeating Tetsuya Naito by referee stoppage. And I really enjoyed this match. And not just so much for the in-ring action, more of the character development that we saw from the Great Okan. And, Naito was kind of taking it easy, mocking Okan, making fun of his pose, and kind of, fooling around with Okan towards the beginning of the match. And Okan was just kind of cool, calm, and collected. Okan was tranquilo kind of during Naito's, making fun of him, all that stuff, and then it just brought the pain to Naito throughout the match, targeted those injured knees, and just looked really good here in this match.
One thing, there have been quite a few guys over the past few years that have leaned heavily into the character work aspect of their wrestling character. And, they've been sometimes praised, sometimes kind of hated on for that. But I would say at this point, I don't know if there's anyone who's maybe Hiromu over the past 4 or 5 years. But I would say maybe not even him has been able to kind of tap into a character on the level that Okan has. I mean, he just, in every aspect, from his social media to his interviews to his ring presence, in the ring, out of the ring, he really has cultivated this, dominator, Great Okan persona. And he's extremely confident in it, which is starkly different from, say, Master Wato,
Right.
And yeah, I think probably the closest comparison we've seen over the years would be, I think it's beyond where Jay White was at the same time. I think Jay White grew into his character and figured it out over time, but and he had a grasp too, but it took a year or two for him to really get his bearings. Hiromu's the only other guy that I could think of that came back from excursion and knew exactly who he was and had figured it out. And I feel like from a character aspect, that's where Okan was. What I liked about first off, I've heard some bad things about the match, but generally speaking, in the New Japan wrestling community, I think this was received very well.
Yeah.
And Chris Charlton sort of, he was telling the story on on the. Did you get to hear any of the English commentary?
I did for some show. I'm trying to remember if I saw this show with English or not. I think I might have watched Japanese for this show.
Well, he basically laid out. It was sort of like when it felt similar to when Russo used to give predictions on the pre-shows for WCW, and he booked the show, and he would predict the people that he booked, and it would be a dead ass giveaway because he never wanted to look like someone who didn't know.
Yeah.
So to put himself over. And I'm not saying Chris was trying to do that, but Chris is being I don't know if Naito's heart is in this. He just lost to the double gold. He's and he's just, talking about the mounting injuries and, what really is the point of him winning it, because he just had a shot at stopping the title unification. Now the titles are being unified, and his entire all that energy that he had put into the Castle Attack match against Ibushi, that kind of went flying out the window. And so he was he's not in the right frame of mind. I just don't know if he can get it done. And I'm I don't think that's what you should be saying here. I think you should be creating plausible doubt so that when Okan beats him, it's this big shock, But I think Chris was trying to a little bit look like the smartest guy in the room.
Well, yeah, and Okan, you can mention that dominator gimmick, he dominated Naito throughout this match. Essentially, this was almost, in a way, a 20-minute squash match. Naito did not get much offense in. Okan was just brutalizing this man with his power. Okan, when he hits you, it's just like somebody's getting hit with a truck. His power moves are so great.
He has awesome power moves.
Strikes, his Mongolian chops, and then just focusing that offense on Naito's knees there until he can lock that submission in. And he had it locked right in the middle of the ring. Naito couldn't get to the ropes. And Red Shoes had no choice but to call the match.
Yeah, I thought that was a great way to go. He didn't obviously beat him with, what is his finisher? The Dominator?
The Eliminator.
The Eliminator, okay.
Which is the claw chokeslam.
The claw chokeslam, okay. He didn't hit him with that, so there is a little bit of an out, but at the same time, I mean, it's hard to argue with somebody, getting stopped or getting choked out,
right,
off of a submission. And like you said, this was almost completely Okan. I mean, Naito kept trying to get back in it, and the character work was just great. Like, from the very beginning, Naito just mocking him and doing all these poses and just not taking it seriously. And like Okan looked at no point like a man that was shaken, intimidated, or dismayed by what.
Right. He was like, at one point we got thrown to the outside, he was kind of like laughing it off, and then he got in and just like turned it up.
he just came in and like he came with the game plan and he just fucked up Naito.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the match, at the very, very end when he won, he turns around and he starts doing the Tranquilo poses and all that
starts
shit.
mocking Naito.
And I was like, oh, fuck. He's got his number.
Yeah.
That was great. I think in the past we've been kind of accused of being like wrestling nerds and like snobs, like work rate snobs, and guys that only like the in-ring aspect. And it's like, well, we're sitting here giving a lot of praise to a match that was essentially a prolonged squash match. The last time I can remember a match feeling like this to any real degree was like maybe Brock Lesnar and John Cena from SummerSlam all those years ago.
Yeah.
So I liked this, and I liked that it was a different pace and style. I was shocked. I mean, I had Naito going through. I thought I had Sound Logic, but they're clearly giving the push to Okan. I think this busted a lot of people's brackets. I don't see Okan going all the way necessarily. If he does, he has to go through Evil. And I feel like if he
or Cobb.
I don't think he's going to go through Cobb. So he basically has
he has Yano next.
He has Yano next,
which is a match he can win.
He could lose it too.
Yeah.
And he'd be fine if he lost that match because it's Yano.
Right.
But he'll probably beat Yano likely and then probably end up against Evil. And so I mean, he'd have to be Evil and then probably Shingo too. It's possible, but I mean, if you're doing all that, I mean, they're really,
that's like literally strapping the rocket on him.
We're talking about possibly having that conversation that other people are starting, I think maybe they are quote unquote ahead saying that he's the true leader and Ospreay is not, which maybe they could potentially be calling an audible based off the work he's been doing. But I feel like this is more of a rehab than anything else based off the two big losses he took to Tanahashi. And I don't see him going past the third round.
Yeah, I mean, a good first 2 rounds would be good for him and kind of help establish him as a singles guy.
Beating Naito establishes a narrative. He doesn't need much more at this point.
And then you have a built-in feud right there. We've got a lot of big shows coming up. You could run back a Naito-Okan match or some of the stuff that's coming up.
And I'll tell you what, I'd be excited for it. One thing, though, and I want to talk about this. So, we've talked about the knee injury with Naito. Obviously, there's reports, we'll talk about it, of Okada having also a back injury. You already kind of let the cat out of the bag that he lost his match. Do you think that these calls were made because these guys are hurt? Or do you think it's more like this was always the plan and they're just sticking with the plan? Because that's what I would probably lean towards personally.
Yeah, I feel like, we keep talking about this new era being started and with the new titles being, brought in. And we're seeing this. Like, this is a new era of New Japan. And I think they know that. Like, they have to start going with some other guys besides Okada and Naito. And they need to get some other guys over and create some new stars. And kind of make people want Okada and Naito more. And so I think it was a great way to, show that, hey, we're going from other guys. We're really trying to work on the future by knocking out Okada and Naito with guys like with Shingo and Great Okan, 2 guys that are not often in the the main event scene or been giving. I mean, obviously Shingo's had great matches, had never title run, but he's never had a title shot. And so putting 2 fresh guys potentially in the main event scene, that opens up the doors for some new matchups and kind of saves Okada and Naito too.
Yeah, I agree. I really dug this. I thought this was a great way to kind of kick off the New Japan Cup. So let's talk about what is reportedly and possibly the last ever IWGP Heavyweight / IWGP Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship title matches. We got Desperado, the junior and junior tag champion, challenging Kota Ibushi.
Yeah, and Despy was seconded by Taichi and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Came out with the black and gold mask, kind of the big fight field championship gear here for this matchup. And, they did a great job, with the backstory of this match and explaining, Desperado facing Ibushi for the junior title when he first kind of came back from excursion. And, it was a short turnaround to build up this main event in this match. And so it was cool that they were able to, pull into that backstory to help build up this match here on this night. And, story of the match here, and this was kind of told throughout commentary as well, was that, Desperado was not facing a junior heavyweight Kota Ibushi anymore. And this was a bigger and harder hitting Kota Ibushi. So throughout the match, Desperado had to weather the storm of a heavyweight Kota Ibushi with his striking. And then on the other hand, Desperado's still a junior, still a bit faster. And so Despy had to use his speed and had to try and slow down Ibushi, work on the knees, which we've seen, in the Naito match. And, people have started to kind of pinpoint Kota Ibushi's knees. And so Desperado working on the knees throughout the match as well. A lot of great strikes, a lot of great exchanges, great spots. I really liked the story of the match and the match overall. The one thing that did hurt, I think everybody going into this match knew that Desperado had no chance of winning this match. I don't think anybody was expecting any kind of upset, even though there still were some great near falls, but it was just very hard to believe that Destiny was going to get the win here.
Yeah. That was kind of a given. I think that's one of the reasons why historically for these anniversary shows, we don't typically get, an actual title challenge. I'm more in favor of them doing the title challenge just for historical purposes. Plus, it gives a boost to the champion, having a defense under, why not? If it's going to be a big main event and on a big stage, why not just make it for the belts?
Right.
What does that hurt? But I could see why some people would be against it for the reasons that you just kind of laid out. In this case, I think because it was Desperado and I think because it was Budokan Hall and it had a 4-day build, I think they needed a little bit of that extra oomph or hook to try to sell more tickets.
Yeah.
Draw more attention, which wasn't a bad thing. That's a good idea. So, plus, with the entirety of the belts going away and being merged into this new lineage, you could also book it as the last time, the last hurrah for these two belts, which, was fine. I thought you did a great job, laying a lot of the stuff out there. I thought the match was very, very good. Even though there was that sense of, Desperado probably can't win here. Mm-hmm. I liked that they really leaned into the story that Ibushi is coming off of a recent title match where his knee was, focused on. And that kind of gave a target for Desperado being the junior, but something that he could aim for. Plus, considering what is the name of his
the numero dos.
The numero dos. Okay, I didn't want to call it 2 or dos because I wasn't sure if that's what it was. But yeah, his stretch muffler finisher focuses on the leg exclusively, and it's it's a leg submission. So that was sort of the story, was him, trying to soften up the leg. I mean, it's a simple story, and it worked very, very, very well.
Right, and we've seen with the numero dos, once he locks that second hand in, it's been almost, normally gets a stoppage or tap out from that. And so he got very close to getting that locked in on Ibushi several times, but Ibushi able to get to the rope every time. So that was kind of a great near submission stuff there.
Yeah, I thought, even though, there was criticism about the attendance of this show, and like we kind of discussed earlier, I'm not trying to make excuses. If the attendance numbers were poor, by all means have at it. I don't have the insight to really tell you how well or bad they did because I don't even know.
Well, I think the big thing is, like Stardom did about 300 more people than they did in Budokan, and I think the Noah show did a little bit more than them as well. So people are kind of throwing those numbers out there and saying like, oh, look, those two companies drew more than New Japan.
That's fine, yeah. And I mean, that's great for those companies too. I think that those were bigger shows, if you just look at how long they built those shows. They built both of those shows similar to the way that like New Japan, I wouldn't say quite Wrestle Kingdom, but maybe the way historically they'd build like, say, a Dominion. It's on that same level, maybe, and you could even maybe say a Wrestle Kingdom in the case of those two companies. So I'm not that surprised. Of course, I think like a hair versus hair, white belt match in Stardom, given with Julia or whoever,
Yeah, it's Julia and Tam. I think it was for the red belt. Actually, I think.
Oh, was it? I didn't think it was for the red belt.
Or maybe it was white belt. Maybe I'm mistaken.
The red belt's the main belt, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think they had the red. I could be wrong. I don't watch that product. But then also, them doing Shiozaki, who's coming off of like this career best, year, defending the title against, Muto. I could see why both of those outdrew this, I'm not surprised at all. I guess where I was going though before I kind of got caught up in that is there was criticism about the attendances, and I don't have enough insight to like say one way or the other about how bad this or good this was, but as far as the ambiance, they brought the lights down low. I thought the crowd seemed super into these last couple matches. I thought it was a good crowd. And Budokan's one of my favorite buildings, and so I really dug the last half of this show overall. Yeah,
starting with the New Japan Cup matches, everything I thought was really well, and I really enjoyed this main event. And I saw some people kind of criticizing it just because it was Desperado and it was very predictable who would win, but I was still like 4.25 on it.
I'd probably go the same. But you know what? There's a growing contingency of fans that are just really, really into Desperado. And I think that speaks to, the job that Hiromu and him did together in the same building back in, November, December, whatever that was for the Super Junior final. And then, they've kind of leveraged him to another position. Plus all the opportunities they gave him last year, in the New Japan Cup and challenging for the Never title and, in the Best Super Juniors. They really have given a lot of shine and focus on Desperado. And, I think we've always been fans of his. I don't think I'm as big of a fan as many others are. But this was awesome. I really, 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 really enjoyed this. And my favorite part was post-match after Ibushi beat him. And then you kind of see like the different side of Taichi as he comes in and he like kind of like lovingly like caresses the mask of Desperado, and as they're like, I watched the post match and they're in the back, and he was like, "You have nothing to be ashamed of. You should be proud right now." He was like double champ, triple crown champ. He's like, "You are Tenryu," or he's like, "You're Jumbo," and like, cause he has all three, the junior titles and the IWGP title,
yeah.
And like, he's just like hyping him up, over the performance he had. So I thought that part was cool. If there was ever a group of guys, like out of all the stables, that I think you could like write or, create a compelling anime around, it would have to be fucking Suzuki Gun. Like they're the best. I know other people would probably say like LIJ or some shit, but I think that I think those are guys more like they're surrounding characters. The guys with the real depth that you can like really like dig into, that's Suzuki Gun.
Yeah. And one counter I liked was at the end where Bushi was going for the Kamagoye and Despy reversed it into the numero dos. I thought that was a great counter right there and a great kind of leading into that final kind of near submission there before Ibushi could come back, hit the Kamagoye to get the win.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this match, I would highly recommend it. Go out of your way and check it out. A big recommend for me.
Yeah, definitely recommend. We did have a question here from Reddit user, why did you do that, bro? Does it rub either of you the wrong way? The last ever IWGP Heavyweight Championship match didn't include some like Tanahashi or Okada, but El Desperado. I liked Despy, but the booking in the match itself was so anticlimactic for the final match ever for both of those belts. They should have just had Jay Ibushi be the last match.
I mean, for me, there shouldn't be a last IWGP or last Intercontinental title match. So I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I seriously, because I really think it's a really terrible decision. And we had a pretty spirited debate last week, me and Chris Samsa. If you guys didn't check that, you can go back and check that. I think there's a lot of great points that were made there. So, with that being the case, like, no, I don't care, that this was the last, big match for both those belts. And I mean, if you're one of those people who buys in to the mythos or the way they're marketing it, that this world heavyweight title is the spiritual successor to those two belts and will carry within it the lineage of those belts, then you shouldn't care anyways.
Right. Essentially, you should see it as just
a continuation.
Right. Which Kota Ibushi tried to play that off in the post-match comments. He was saying, people are so, mad with the title, but he's like, the two titles are coming together, and the new title is going to continue the lineage of both those titles, is what Ibushi was trying to explain.
Well, here's the thing, is like, I guess we can get into some of this discussion. So there's a few different ways of looking at it, and I'll explore a couple. One is you could say you don't want to continue either lineage directly because then it devalues the other title, right? Mm-hmm. But very clearly, one of these belts is more prestigious and has the lengthier run and has been positioned as the higher belt in the company. I think it makes all the sense in the world to hypothetically just fold the Intercontinental lineage into this one and continue. You can change the name to World if you want. That's fine. But just continue that 1987 Inoki lineage to now. I don't see why they couldn't have just done that. I don't even see why they couldn't retroactively go back and just do that at this point. Like, we still probably got like a month or so before they actually even unveil the new title.
Right. Who knows? They could always change things up. And the key thing they're saying is that Bushi's going to be the first world champion, which I think is what's throwing people off, and the whole thing where they're dropping the lineage. But they could always change that and say, yes, we are keeping the lineage of that.
Well, think of it this way. Chris Jericho was the first undisputed champion, but they continued the WWE or WWF lineage.
Right, yeah.
Same thing with when Randy Orton
became the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, yeah.
Yeah, same thing. So I don't see why you couldn't honor the person, give them the accolade, They're the guy. I remember when, this is different, but like, when Samoa Joe went to England with the ROH title and wrestled Zebra Kid, and then they changed it to the ROH World title because it was being defended across the globe. Right. He was the first world champion they had, even though the title, dated back prior to him.
Right.
Who was the first champion? Was it Loki? I think.
I think so.
I don't know. I forget.
Either Loki or Xavier Daniels, one of those guys.
Xavier was number 2. I don't think Daniels was number 1. Daniels didn't get it till he was old.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we see that in a lot of companies where they finally get their belt defended in a different country. And then now
ECW did it.
Yeah, ECW, Dragon Gate USA did it. TNA did it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we see that all the time. So yeah, they definitely could continue the lineage and still call him the first World Heavyweight Champion.
I mean, at this point, it's just an idea. We have no knowledge that they're going to do that. But based on what we've seen on social media, the comments and everything, seems to be that the fans over on that side are also not really happy about this. What do you think about the rumors that they knew when they booked this that it was going to get heat, and that's why they went with Ibushi to be the guy to take the heat, because he's Ibushi and he's an outsider and a face and everything like that, and they didn't want to put that kind of negativity on, say, Jay White or Ibushi or Naito.
Yeah, I've seen those theories going around. I don't really.
Well, it sounds like it's more. I'm not saying it's true, but I've seen, more than just like theoretical. I've seen people say like this is
a fact. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, like, why would you be afraid to do that to Jay White? Like, he's a heel. Like, It actually probably would have been perfect.
Well, because I think you want it to get over is the idea.
Yeah.
I hope that's not the case, because I feel like if that's the way you're booking, you're doing it wrong. If you're making decisions, you're no better than WWE at that point, like having to rush off pay-per-view because people are not going to like.
Honestly, I don't think they knew they wanted to unify the titles come Wrestle Kingdom, because I feel like if they did, I feel like Wrestle Kingdom should have been like, why did you do that, bro? Mention like that could have been the great moment and stage. Like, all right, that was like the last big match in the Dome, unified titles. I think we've seen for a year now, they had no idea what they really wanted to do with the titles.
Possibly. It's speculation, but you bring up, I had the same thought. I thought earlier, why couldn't they have just done this like right out the gate and given it to Naito?
Yeah, I think they were still kind of up in the air what they wanted to do. And then plus I think, this whole kind of new era and rebranding, this was probably an idea that came up recently. They were like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. We want to rebrand, make ourselves kind of look bigger with this World Heavyweight title moniker. But I think Ibushi was the guy at the time. Like now is Ibushi's time to run with him. And I don't think they solely picked Ibushi just to do this merger angle.
Well, I think one thing is like a lot of there are some fans who are more invested in kayfabe aspects of the company, and they're like kind of almost blaming Ibushi as if this was his idea. Now, maybe he did introduce it. I don't know.
Right. Well, in kayfabe,
he did.
Right.
But there's a good chance that this is just this was the job that was given to him by the higher ups, and he was told to get it over, and he's trying to like inject some sort of like logic and respect into the story. And he is, whether they intended it or not, he is kind of the guy left holding the bag.
Right.
And it sucks that it's him. But, ultimately, I don't even think it's all about Ibushi. I think it's just fans really love and respect this title, and they don't want it to go away.
Right.
I think that's the bottom line.
Right. But we'll see what happens as they move forward with the double titles.
Now, there was 2 huge announcements in the middle of this show that I guess we should discuss now. Coming up on May 15th, there will be Wrestle Grand Slam, an outdoor arena stadium show that will be held at Yokohama Stadium. And then 14 days later on May 29th, I messed it up. I messed the name.
Yeah, both shows are Wrestle Grand Slam.
They're both Wrestle Grand Slam.
Right.
Okay.
It's Wrestle Grand Slam at Yokohama Stadium.
And then at the Tokyo Dome.
Right.
Which this will be the first Tokyo Dome event that's been held outside of the January 4th Wrestle Kingdom, or just January 4th in general, since like
in
2005.
16 years.
Yeah, that's 2005, right? Yeah.
And
so that's crazy.
And then first time ever for them running the Yokohama Stadium. And we did have a lot of questions about this big announcement here.
Yeah, and I think there's positives and negatives to kind of really discuss when it comes to this thing. And I think there's a lot of also kind of questions that are just up in there that we don't know a lot about yet. But we could definitely dig into it.
Yeah, do you want to give our opinions first? Or you want to go into these questions, see if that kind of lays things out?
No, let's just discuss it. So, I mean, my initial thought right out the gate was like, hey, the company is looking to do things to help the brand, to do fun and exciting things. Why not run another Tokyo Dome event or a stadium show in the middle of the year? Because, they're not going to be able to sell out a full staff building or anything like that, like a Budokan Hall or Ryogoku or anything. So running these bigger shows kind of helps maybe possibly recoup some of those losses. I don't know how much it costs to run these buildings, but I'm assuming because they're doing it and hopefully they're having prudent, financial and fiscal, responsible decisions, that they're getting these probably at a fraction of the price, and it's going to be, provided they draw well, very profitable for the company overall. And it gives, the sort of the spectacle aspect of wrestling in Japan. It brings that back a little bit. And it's like, hey, this isn't a Cork and Hall show in the middle of the afternoon. This is big time, stadium show. First time ever in Yokohama. First time running in the Tokyo Dome outside January 4th in 16 years. These are big milestone events, possibly. I hope that's how people see it. I hope that's how they build it and it ends up being. So I think there's a lot of upside provided they do it right.
Right. I think Well, what we're seeing right now with in the COVID era, it's all about the number of shows you're running. Like you mentioned, that they have to recoup. They lost a lot of money last year, and so we're seeing that's what we're seeing, a high quantity of shows, because yes, you have the limited fans, and so you have to kind of make up for that with the quantity of shows. So you run this big building, like you mentioned, you're not going to be able to fill up the stadium. You're not going to be able to fill up the dome. But if you get, 10,000 for each show, that's
a big house in this era currently going.
Right.
At the same time, Yokohama Stadium is huge, and it's an outdoor arena. We kind of saw what Jingu looked like last year with like 5,000, and it didn't look great. It wasn't the worst, but it didn't look fantastic. And I'm pretty sure this is Yokohama Stadium is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a soccer stadium, right?
I think so.
I could look into it. It might be baseball, but from what I understand, it's huge.
Yeah, maybe baseball just because of the Russell Grand Slam name, maybe. I'm not 100% sure.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, but either way, it's a big stadium, and
okay, so it's not as big as I was thinking. It's a 34,000. I was thinking like bigger than this, like double. It's like 34,000 stadium. They do football, baseball, and other stuff like that there. And I'm sure if you're opening up the field, which they would be, that probably adds a significant amount. So I'll just kind of estimate up like 40, 50,000, something like that. So it is still, it's very big. That's huge.
That's a tall task. And like we mentioned, you have this on May 15th, and you're going right back to back with the Dome on May 29th. So I think
that's my big concern.
You got two big shows. And not only that, so after New Japan Cup, you have Sakura Genesis, which is a big show that you have to do a big card for. And then you lead right into the Dontaku and the Wrestle Hinokuni. Those are big shows.
Yeah, this is that weird time of the year where they run multiple kind of like mid-level to bigger shows right back to back to back, plus all the Road 2 shows. So they're like kind of doubling down on that. Now, one thing I do like is, we've complained about the 2 nights, right? And so sometimes they're splitting these cards, and we're not getting full blown top level cards. We're getting them split in half, sometimes split in 3. I'm pretty sure, hopefully, I'm optimistic that they're gonna have to do big full lineup cards for both of these events if they expect to draw well. But then the concern is what you just mentioned, is like that's in the middle of Hinokuni, right in the middle of Dontaku, Sakura Genesis.
After these shows, you have Dominion the next month. You got to have a big card for that as well.
And it looks like, based on the schedule, that this is going to be pushing Best of the Super Juniors back.
No, I don't think so, because normally this would be Wrestling Dontaku would run at this time slot, and you would have between.
But usually, May.
That's right. The Tokyo Dome shows the 29th. Yeah, so
they usually start around this time, and so we haven't heard anything about exactly when they're going to be doing Super Juniors. They could literally jump right into it right after this is over.
Right.
That's a possibility. It's also possible they might push it back till further in the year. Maybe they liked how everything turned out with the G1 and everything.
Well, I guess it depends on what they're going to do as far as size of the tournament, and if they're going to do single block again or try and do a double block and try and get some guys in.
A lot of things that we just don't know yet.
Right, because if they do a single block, they could probably do it right after this Wrestle Grand Slam before Dominion, so you still have the finals right before Dominion.
But the thing that's not in question is this schedule that's been proposed. It pushes it back either one way or the other, whether it's short or long term. I don't know. So yeah, there also is the concern that they don't have enough time to build 1/2 really compelling shows that are going to draw big on this level. And like you mentioned, Dominion's right around the corner. So are they going to kind of forgo Dominion and sort of make that a lower level card?
Right. Or are we going to see for some of these April shows, are these shows going to be kind of not as big because I have to save stuff for these stadiums and the Dome show?
Yeah, I mean, we were when they first announced this, I was like, okay, so if you're doing the Dome and you're doing the stadium, you're talking about Wrestle Kingdom level matches. What matches are really out there that they haven't done in recent years that they could draw big on these shows. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, obviously there's always Jon Moxley. That is a possibility, especially with him, looking to sort of have been possibly maybe written off for the time being in AEW, coming off the the Onita match. That's one person that has a lot of compelling matchups, including like obviously maybe Okada, but with reports that maybe Okada needs some time off, maybe hypothetically, possibly Naito needs some time off. That's not looking so good. And then you think about the matches that you do have that are on the docket. It's like what? There's Naito and Will.
Yeah.
That's a big one that they have not done, that they've been saving for a long time. For Ibushi, I can't think of a challenger that he hasn't faced. I mean, I guess you could go back to Okada.
Right. I think Okada, challenging for his first world heavyweight title could be a big draw and a big deal. And
that could be the deal.
I don't think they've done Ibushi Okada to death. I think there's still, that match is still, you can draw with that and make money with that match.
One thing to throw out there, and I'm sure some people are going to groan over this, but it is a real possibility. There is Kenny Omega, and I can't think of, if I were to think of the three big names in AEW that exist, that if you wanted to do a big match, all three of them basically already have the ability to work New Japan, and that would be Jericho, Mox, and Kenny. I can't actually think of anybody else that's been built already that has enough notoriety and appeal that you could just port them in at this point, with a few months to go. Those are the only three big names, and I'm not sure what matches specifically. I think of the three of those, Jericho has the least appeal right now, because I think they sort of did Jericho to death over the 2-year period where he was really active.
Right. I mean, I think the biggest would be that Kenny Omega Ibushi match. We know that they've kind of been angling for that in the way in their tweets and kind of promos and kind of slightly hinting at each other and stuff like that. They're both the world champions of their companies right now.
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
And it's a far outside possibility. I'm not saying it's a likelihood, but I'm just thinking, like, what else could they do? They haven't done Tanahashi and Ibushi in a long time, so maybe there's that. Obviously, depending on how this New Japan Cup goes, I mean, I couldn't see Shingo and Ibushi going out there and like drawing a big house right now, like at least on this level. Maybe he could. Maybe I'm discounting him a bit, but like, with Hiromu gone, possibly Okada, not doing the best. I don't know. This seems like a really precarious time to be doing big dome shows, and so I'm just wondering how successful this actually will be. And also I'm wondering if they're getting themselves into trouble, because what if renting these buildings out isn't as fortuitous as we're assuming that it is?
Yeah, it's hard to know. I feel like they probably had to get a deal because not a lot of stuff have been able to run in those buildings in the last year, and I'm sure those buildings need to recoup on money as well. And so,
but like, what if they're, that's true, but what if they don't have the manpower or the capability to draw big in those buildings right now, based on the global pandemic, based on lack of star power, most of their big matches having been done extensively over the last few years. I'm just wondering, can they actually do it?
Yeah. I guess we'll see.
It's a concern of mine. Yeah. And I think it's a valid concern.
Definitely. And we have a lot of questions.
Especially with 14 days apart. That's not a long time at all.
Right. And we have some questions here that kind of dive a little bit deeper into this topic here. First from Cool Scientist 1, which we kind of talked about. What matches do you see headlining the 2 Wrestle Grand Slam shows in May?
Do you have any? I think the one you threw out there that I kind of alluded to, I think Okada challenging for the big title, that's a big deal. That would be a big deal, and I think they might even go with a title change. But with his issues with his back, really call everything into question.
Yeah. I don't know how big of a draw it will be, but there's still, I think, some story to be told with Bushi and Jay White. and Jay getting another shot at Ibushi.
Well, Jay White was like the hottest guy in the company for, the first part of the year without even I guess technically having been signed. But then they brought him in and did the Ishii angle. Maybe they are getting ready to kind of gear him up for another title challenge. So that is a possibility that exists out there. And, I think he's more over than people give him credit for.
Yeah. But, besides those, like you mentioned, I have a hard time seeing what else. Because, like, Shingo, I feel like if Shingo's getting a shot, it'll be Sakura Genesis or, maybe, Dantaku or Hinokuni.
I think we even sort of delved into, what's out there beyond New Japan domestically for them? And I was like, who are the big stars that kind of exist in that stratosphere that you could maybe bring in? It would be somewhat unprecedented, but I was thinking, Kento Miyahara exists in All Japan. I'm pretty sure he's alone there in terms of guys that you could really do big business with. And then in Noah, obviously you got Keiji Muto and Marufuji, and I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah.
I think they've got some really great talent there. Kito Kiyomiya, Kino, Sugiura. I don't even know if I say that right, but
those aren't guys that you're gonna put on a marquee to fill up a stadium or a dome.
Yeah, Katsuhiko Nakajima, like those guys are out there and they're great and they're really, 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 really good. I just I don't see New Japan bringing them in as showcase guys. I could see them bringing in Marufuji possibly. I could see them bringing in freaking Muto. I guess, Onita's out there too.
Right.
That's a big name. I mean, he hasn't meant a lot in years, kind of like how Muto didn't either, but he kind of exists. And then when I think about the rest of Japan and like all the other companies that are out there, I mean, there's really nobody,
Right.
Who you can bring in, like Daisuke Harada, I don't know.
Yeah.
Shima,
Sakamoto.
Mochizuki, Daisuke Sakamoto. Like, none of those guys really move the needle like that.
Right.
They could maybe partner with Stardom.
Right.
And maybe do some showcase matches if there's any big matches, like maybe with Mayu or something like that. That's the one untapped thing that they could do, and that would actually make more sense because the partner, or because they're both Bushi Road. But then again, like I don't know if they're allowed to even
air
that stuff. So that's the roadblock.
Yeah. We had another question here from PCN91. So with the Wrestle Grand Slam taking place in May, what do you think that means for the scheduling of the Best Super Juniors? Do you think we'll see at the end of the year, like they did last year, combining it with World Tag League?
It's a possibility. I really hope they don't do that. I was not a big fan of it. I'd much rather that they do it in the early part of the year, especially since we went through some slogs during the middle part of the year last year.
Yeah, I think the only benefit, I don't want it to be combined with World Tag League, but the only benefit of doing it later is in a few months, things might be more opened up, more vaccinations. You might be able to bring in more foreign talent.
If you push it out, you might have more possibility to draw on a bigger scale.
Right, and bring more guys in. You can bring in your Dragon Lees, Banditos, and bring in some Leo Rush. Bring in some of these U.S. guys, some Gaijin guys into this.
Yeah, I don't think we know the answer to this, but I think that you bring up a great point there, Jeremy. I think you could also make the same argument for a G1 as well, though.
Right.
So I wonder what they're thinking of doing.
Well, they're still because the Olympics.
They're not.
Okay.
That's the thing. They were going to be happening, and so the G1 was assumed to get pushed back again. But now that the Olympics are not happening in Japan, and I think Japan's going back into the cycle, and like they're going to have to try and get it back down the road, which it could be years. It could be like a decade. Who knows? So yeah.
Yeah, you could run G1 normal time and then run Super Juniors in the fall.
They could run them together too.
That'd be crazy.
I kind of like don't want them to do that because that just might be too much for me.
Yeah.
I liked the idea of it last year, but now that I've gone through two tournaments together in practice, like I'm not feeling it.
EMJ does PR as he said, let's get some discourse on the 2 stadium shows in May. If Dominion is still in June, how are they going to book all these bangers? Which I think we kind of
discussed it. I mean, but he's absolutely right. Like with Dontaku, Dominion, Sakura Genesis, plus these 2 shows, that's 5 big shows in a matter of months, all before August. Plus all the other shows that they're going to be doing surrounding it.
Right.
That's I don't know how they book it, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that I have faith in Geto to do this. I think Geto's a fantastic booker. I think he's done a lot of really good and creative things during this pandemic, but I also think he's showcased some of his limitations. And they're not all due to him. Some of it is just logistics. But I think he works best in the context of structure and a well thought out game plan. And some of this stuff, maybe they've been planning it for a while, but it feels like they're kind of just
throwing stuff at the wall and see one sticks.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like you guys, I don't know. We'll see what the cards are going to look like for these shows.
I mean, we didn't talk about it last week, but like the Observer Awards came out, we didn't win anything.
Yeah, I was we're trying to bring that up.
It's like it's the first time in like, years and years and years. It's like, I don't know, 2013, 2014.
Yeah. Times are changing. Got a question here from our user Dom Homie 101. Any thoughts on New Japan running both stadium and dome show in 2 weeks span? Is it possible that New Japan could work with other companies like All Japan, Noah, and Stardom, and AEW for these 2 shows?
I think that would actually, now let's just imagine what if it is like their all-star shows. If they end up being all-star shows, because that's what the dome shows used to be. And there's positives and negatives to that, because a lot of those, if you go back through the history books and you watch a lot of those January 4th, those early Wrestle Kingdoms, they kind of just exist in their own space. They're like a lot of showcase matches that don't mean anything after they happened, and they really were like a hard reset for the company every time they happened. And what I like is most of what New Japan does has stakes, has reasons and purposes, and that's kind of unlike what modern day New Japan's like. But I think there is room for every once in a blue moon doing something spectacular, kind of like the old like the Wrestling Summit show between All Japan, WWF, and New Japan, where, you get dream matches, and that could be cool. We've talked about them doing things like this before, and that might make sense in the context of like some of the things that happen on the show could lead into Dominion, but a lot of it could just be a spectacular spectacle show.
Right, and if you do like big dream matches and you're saving internal matches for a Dominion.
Yeah. For instance, just throwing it out there, like here's an who's someone you would like to see Adam Page wrestle?
Let's see. Do maybe Hangman versus Shingo?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you get a Hangman versus Shingo dream match, and it happens, and it's definitely something that like when Hangman comes back, maybe Excalibur's like, man, he had a great showing in the Dome 2 weeks ago, in a tough loss to Shingo Takagi, and then they just move on.
Right.
So they might talk about it, but, this is kind of outlandish stuff. It's probably not happening, but, like, I'm just thinking business. I'm like, maybe there's a ragtag group of guys that Tony Khan could, like, release for a month. I don't know who, but maybe some guys that he could let go over and do this shit. Maybe that would really like seal up this partnership sort of thing,
Yeah, I mean, we know there's a lot of guys that have that in their contract to work New Japan. Also, there's familiar faces, like we mentioned, like Kenny, the Bucks, Hangman, all the Bullet Club guys that they could use for that show, and that are familiar with the New Japan audience.
Yeah, and if they did do a big show like this and they brought in some Noah or All Japan guys or whatever, at that point, if it's kind of billed as like a dream card, you don't have to have the biggest draws. You can kind of just, I don't know, you could bring in Stinger and they could wrestle Desperado and Kanemaru,
Right. You're just kind of building, like, these are matches that is one time only.
Right.
You're not going to see these matches again. We talk, Okada used to say this in some interviews. He kind of wanted this kind of a big, like, wrestling festival celebration of all these companies kind of working together for one show.
Yeah, you do. I remember he wanted to wrestle Kiyomiya. They're talking about, him versus Kato Kiyomiya. Like, that'd be really cool, something like that,
Right.
So who knows? I don't know.
And then you're drawing from multiple fan bases, too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've seen their willingness to work. I think it's far-fetched. It's probably not happening, but I'm just thinking, like, I mean, that was where my mind did go when they announced this. I was like, they don't have a lot of time to build this. We're in the middle of a big tournament, big cup, and there's not a lot of shows between now and those two big shows. How are they going to build a really compelling narrative that actually works? What if they did go spectacle route? What if they did bring in, like, Jon Moxley again? Or, Chris Jericho or somebody like that. I don't know,
Yeah. I think they got to pull out all the big guns here.
But they probably won't, though. They're probably going to spread themselves too thin and try to just do it on their own.
Yeah. Dom Homie also asked, with New Japan running Yokohama Stadium and with Yokohama being the hometown of Minoru Suzuki, what are your thoughts of Suzuki fighting for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship as a way to help boost attendance? Also thought on New Japan doing an Onita-style exploding no-rope barbed wire death match at the Yokohama show as another way to help boost attendance.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I mentioned his name. I thought, outdoor stadium, exploding barbed wire death match.
Yeah.
That exists. And it's something we talked about. It's not that far-fetched because we were talking about it for Jingu. Who would be involved in it? How would it happen? My vote is KOPW. Get Yano in there. I don't. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for Suzuki. Like, here's the thing: I want Suzuki to be the IWGP champion. Listen, this is 2021. It's the year of the olds.
Right.
Biden,
olds on top.
Yeah, Muto, olds. Jun Akiyama, olds riding on top. Minoru Suzuki at this point right now is the second most failing challenger for the IWGP title, just behind Goto. And if he challenges and loses again, I think he ties him, and they're both leading as like the most failingest challengers who've never won the title ever. So, I would love for him to win it. And also, here's another thing that we haven't talked about is like, how does this affect all those, like, for instance, people want to talk about the Grand Slam championships. Well, it's like, unifying these titles, how does that change?
Right. How can you get the Grand Slam now? Yeah.
Yeah. What is the Grand Slam? Do you retroactively go back and like count all the guys that had the Never title as being like a number 2 belt now? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then also you talk about like guys that have won the big 3 in all the different different big companies. And it's like, but now there's a different big belt in New Japan. I don't think anyone ever expected
right
the grandest prize in Japan to just kind of vamoose. So I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to, especially if it was Ibushi and Suzuki.
That would be awesome.
I know I'm not saying that would be the biggest draw, but it is his hometown. And if it was like the pitch was like, this is his last shot, coming off that really fantastic G1 match they had, I'm sure that would be like incredible.
Yeah, and I think that match could be easily built up and have a lot of story element behind it.
Yeah, I don't know if New Japan wants to do another exploding barbed wire death match, like coming hot off the heels of AEW's, kind of embarrassment and disappointment. So I don't know if they should go that route, but they've done them in the past. They've been very successful when Onita was doing them in the company. But I think you need the right guy and the right reason and narrative to kind of just do it. I don't think you should just do it just to pop an attendance number.
Right. Well, let's move on now. We have some New Japan Cup matches to talk about that happened the last couple of days here. So starting on March 6th, show opened up with some undercard matches. We had the Bullet Club team of Chase Owens, Jay White, and Taiji Ishimori defeating David Finlay, Toa Hanare, and Yuya Uemura. Then we had the United Empire, Great Okan, Jeff Cobb, and Will Ospreay defeating the LIJ team of Bushi, Sanada, and Tetsuya Naito. which brings us to our first New Japan Cup match of this show, which was Minoru Suzuki defeating Tomoaki Honma in a banger.
Yeah, this really was a banger. 14 minutes, 54 seconds. I was just so taken back at how violent this match. I mean, if you know the history of these two guys and you know the background of both of them, this wouldn't surprise you. But the thing is, Honma really hasn't been able to kind of go on this level for a long time. Now, it does help that Suzuki kind of has framed a certain type of old man match that really just hinges on a lot of strikes, a lot of rope running. There's not too many high spots. There's not too many intricate, chain wrestling, grappling moves. It's just very much, a hoss fight sort of situation. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of just old school wrestling, guys going for kokeshis, moving out of the way, going for big moves, dips, dodges, dives. And it reminded me a lot of the first round match that Nagata and Suzuki had last year. By far, I think this is Tomoaki Honma's best match he's had since he returned from injury. And it's definitely the best match he's had since the great match he had in the New Japan Cup last year with who did he wrestle?
Hiromu.
With Hiromu. God, what's wrong with me?
But yeah, this match was awesome. I love this match. Very hard hitting, like you mentioned, just slapping each other. And they work to Honma's strength here.
Yes.
Honma can't really move around all that well, and he didn't have to in this match. They just stood up and struck each other. And yeah, very hard hitting, very violent, and really just kind of took the fight to Suzuki. And
yeah, when I mentioned those movements that I was referring to, a lot of that was on Suzuki's side. So it was a lot of like Honma setting up the kokeshi, setting up big moves, and Suzuki sort of using his agility and speed to kind of get out of a lot of those bad situations.
Yeah, pretty much just kind of being in the right spots for Honma to be able to kind of hit his big maneuvers there. And then there was a great near fall ending towards the end where Suzuki's going for the gotch, and then Honma kind of rolls out and does this kind of cradle roll-up thing.
Yeah.
But that just pissed Suzuki off. He got up and killed him with elbows and hit the gotch, and I got the win here.
Yeah, this was awesome. This is what I want out of the New Japan Cup. This was really great for Honma. He cut an awesome promo post-match where he just was like, damn it, I can't believe I let this happen. He was crying like actual tears. I can imagine that maybe they were emotional tears of like pride because he was able to go out there and perform on that level once again. And, it's been a long time since that happened, but, he really sold it as dejection, and it was awesome. And then, Suzuki coming out in the back just being a dick and just, talking about like how he beat the piss out of Honma basically.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, they were slapped. There was a great photo, a still shot of him slapping Honma and Honma's face just being all over the place.
I couldn't imagine.
Before we continue with this show, I realized I skipped the March 5th show. Which
I was thinking to myself, this doesn't make sense. I feel like we had more matches before I saw this one.
Yes, so real quick, jumping back to March 5th. So we had Suzuki, Sabre, and Doki taking on, they defeated Yoromoro, Gabriel Kidd, and Honma. Evil, Chase Owens, Yujiro, and Taiji, defeating Tiger Mask, Tanahashi, Yoshihashi, and David Finlay. The United Empire, Great Okan, Ospreay, and Ka, defeating Master Wato, Satoshi Kojima, and Hiroshi Tenzan. Then the New Japan Cup match for this night, we had Toru Yano defeating Bad Luck Fale via countout. So essentially, this was your typical Yano-Fale match where Yano's trying to outrun Fale, he's trying to body slam Fale, and Fale just trying to, catch Yano and overpower him, which leading to Fale getting the tape out, trying to get the count out and tape Yano to the post. But
yeah, as much as I enjoyed the Texas YTR strap match between Chase Owens and Yano, I did not really enjoy this match. I've seen quite a few Yano and Fale matches over the years, and I believe even like in the past couple of years we've seen these two in the New Japan Cup, and Yano keeps beating this guy, and like I just kind of was this was something else that hurt my bracket because I was really just thinking like, Fale's been gone. They brought him back into the country. He dropped more weight. He's like, I don't know if you've seen him on like Instagram and Twitter, but he's like doing all these inspirational like posts and everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, maybe it's time for him to get the big win. Unfortunately, he broke the KOPW trophy. Fortunately, as I've mentioned, they got like, 20
boxes and
boxes of them shits. But this match was exactly what you would have expected out of these two by the numbers. I wasn't really that entertained. And the finish was fine.
The finish did make me kind of laugh.
Yeah, I popped at the finish because it's funny. But at the same time, I was just like, God, like, Fale's a fucking idiot. Like, he had this dude beat, and then he runs into the fucking ropes. One thing I didn't like is, like, okay, I'm not totally opposed to the idea that the outside is a sort of anything goes area, and then in the ring is where, disqualifications can happen. But I think there needs to be a fine line there. And kicking a dude in the nads right in front of the referee on the outside,
that should be a DQ.
That should be a DQ. And like literally, I don't know who it was, but I think it was Red Shoes. Like watched him fucking do it and is like still doing the count. It's like, no, like what the fuck? Yeah. I also kind of think if you tape a guy up like that, the referee should like not make that admissible.
That's a foreign object.
Yeah, it's a fucking foreign object.
But yeah, he taped Yano's hands around the post, but Yano was able to kick Fale into the post and was able to swivel back under the ring to break the count, even though his hands were tied, and Yano gets to win via count out here, eliminates Fale from the first round. And the main event of this night, also in first round action, we had Taichi being defeated by Hiroki Goto.
Another really, really good match.
Yeah, I feel a lot of people kind of being down on this match, and I think it is because it did kind of start off kind of slow, kind of a slow pace. We saw more of maybe a little bit of the old Taichi, kind of slower pace, a little bit more methodical, but then things definitely picked up towards the middle and end here. And, the pants came off, and there was a lot of great strikes, a lot of great sequences here.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen these two guys lock it up many times, especially a couple years ago during their feud for the Never title. And this was truly one of those 50-50 sort of pick'em situations. You didn't know who was going to come out winning because either one was plausible. You kind of knew that neither one of them, given who they're facing, the winner is going to fight either Okada or Shingo, that there's no hope for either one of them. But that kind of, and with that being the case, I mean, either one could have easily gone through.
Right.
So yeah, it was hard to really kind of gauge what was going to happen here. I thought the match was awesome. They had a lot of really, really great near falls at the end, especially. That's something Taichi has been good at for years. It's just like getting the most out of these near falls. Big, he's got an arsenal of moves that he doesn't win with, but that are all really believable.
Like the Gato clutch is like, I think one of his greatest near fall moves. Like every time he locks it in, I'm like, that could be it.
It makes me like want to use it.
It's dope. You should use it.
Yeah. The Gato clutch when he hits people with the last ride, the super kick,
the dangerous backdrop driver.
Yeah, the dangerous backdrop driver. Like, we've been talking about how great Taichi is for years, and like this
Axe Boomba.
Yeah, the Axe Bomber. And they went out there and had a match that was devoid of shenanigans. It was really a sportsman's match, and it was really great. I don't know if I would go quite as high as the Suzuki Hama match, but it wasn't far off.
I mean, I went 4 stars flat on this.
I could have gone easily 4 stars on this. I thought it was really fantastic, and I thought it was fitting as a main event for the New Japan Cup.
Yeah, and Goto, he pulled maybe not so much of an upset. It depends on how you view these guys, but he's a never 6-man champ. They've kind of been pushing Taichi more, but he gets to win here. GTW hits the GTW for near fall, then he hits the GTR and gets to win. Yeah, and I think
the GTW was like a reversal out of something. So like
Taichi was going for a buzzsaw kick. And he caught that, turned it into GTW.
Yeah, it was really, the finish kind of just came swiftly and quickly, and it was a great match.
Yeah. So now moving back to March 6th, the semi-main event of the evening was Kenta defeating Juice Robinson.
This match was fine. I felt like it kind of underperformed what I would hoped for, and that's something I find myself saying quite often when it comes to Juice Robinson and Kenta matches in general. So when I saw the matchup between the two of them, I mean, I kind of almost forgot that they were supposed to be in the Tokyo Dome against one another. And that's sort of like one of the big narratives here, is that like this is to make up for the fact that Juice's orbital bone was broken. That was the big story of the match, though, is early on Kenta used the ring bell to attack that orbital bone, and it stayed in play for the remainder of the bout.
Yeah, this was definitely more of a storytelling, quote, body part match where all of Kenta's offense was towards that overbone, stomping on it, grinding it, or cross faces, working submission holds, attempting the game over, doing knee strikes, strikes to the face. That was the object there, and it was just kind of a telling story. Juice is not 100%, ready yet, and then Kenta, like you mentioned, used the ring bell also to get the advantage there on that orbital bone and just focus the attack on there. And then at the end of the match, he got Juice into the game over submission there, and had no choice but to tap out.
Yeah. So, I mean, fine match, fine story. I was very glad, though, because I've been wanting Kenta versus Suzuki for years now, and it's finally happening again after all this time. So, I mean, I can't really complain. I'm looking forward. It looks like Juice has been putting in a lot of hard work, though. So I am optimistically happy. I mean, there was a time where I was a big supporter of Juice, and I'd like to see him like kind of return to form and even go beyond where he was, previously. But on this night was Kenta.
Yeah. And then the main event of this evening was the Dragon Shingo Takagi defeating Kazuchika Okada. I thought this match was awesome. I think these guys have great chemistry. Definitely a lot of play off of their G1 match. In the G1 match, Shingo passed out to the money clip, and obviously Okada was getting that money clip in and had a similar spot there where Shingo was kind of trapped in the middle in the money clip, but fought back out of it. Just a stellar matchup here between these guys.
Yeah, Shingo did an incredible job where like he was out, like he was literally like going out, and he's just like laying there, and he's not far from the rope, but he's out, so his leg isn't even extended. So it just kind of creates that imagery that he is far away. Mm-hmm. And then like right before Red Shoe's gonna step in, he like comes to and just fucking gets his foot on the rope.
Yes.
And like I was like, dude, I'm gonna definitely do that. So that was really great. The thing is, I've been notable for not being as high on the G1 match as others, but I've always said that the G1 match was really fantastic. I found this match to not really be even that far off from where I thought the G1 match was, but for whatever reason, this match isn't getting as much high praise. I'm noticing there doesn't seem to be as much excitement or even discussion about the New Japan Cup this year, and I don't know if it's because there's just too many shows happening all at one time, and there's not enough time for the events to ruminate, or if it's just not in the Western zeitgeist as much as it has been the past, especially like with this all happening right around the same time as the big AEW show and some of the other big news with WWE and stuff like that.
Right.
But I thought that this match was awesome. In fact, I would go as far as to say this so far was my favorite New Japan Cup night, given, the high quality of the top three matches on top. And this match blew me away. I thought it was really, really awesome. I'm probably like, I don't know, 4.25, 4.5, probably 4.5.
Yeah, I'm 4.5 on it. I agree with you. This was the best overall New Japan Cup night with these three bangers here. Great match. You had Shingo hitting a Rainmaker on Okada. That was
an awesome moment.
Yeah, and then just the finish was incredible here.
Yeah,
where if Okada he's going for the Rainmaker, but Shingo ducks it and gets into the last of the Dragon. Boom, 1, 2, 3. Shingo gets his win back from the G1 and beats Okada.
And there was an interesting part of the narrative where he kept trying to get the Last of the Dragon, and the Last of the Dragon setup isn't too different from, say, like the One-Winged Angel. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of worked in a similar sense to the way that Okada and Kenny used to do their matches. And Shingo just kept getting him up on his shoulders, but Okada just kept having an answer, having a counter. And so it really built up my anticipation. And, Okada did try to rely on the money clip earlier in the match, like you mentioned, because that's how he beat him in the G1. Mm-hmm. And on this occasion, he had to abandon that game plan because Shingo was prepared and he wasn't going to go out. And then he had to resort to a Rainmaker. So
then Shingo had the answer for the Rainmaker counters too, because he countered one Rainmaker with the Made in Japan. He countered a Rainmaker with a Rainmaker of his own. Then at the end,
another
he countered
one, he lariated the arm.
Right.
He had all sorts of, like you said, answers. So it was like a sprint down the stretch for both guys to hit their big move. And, fortunately for Shingo, he just happened to finally get him up and get him down and then beat him with the 1, 2, 3. And like when I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, he did it. Yeah,
that was a great moment. A big win for Shingo. And, another part of the story of the match, which kind of comes out with the reported injuries, it's been reported that Okada just has 2 slip discs in his back and he's in a lot of pain. But, a lot of the story was around Okada's back. Shingo was doing a lot of power moves, throwing him into the apron and the barricades. In the multi-man the night before, Okada had his back taped up. And it's kind of a well-known element that's being played in the story now that Okada has a bad back. So Shingo was working that over. There was a great backbreaker spot in this match as well.
Do you think it's an actual bad back or it's a Matt Jackson bad back?
Honestly, dude, I don't know. It's one of those things is Tanahashi really hurt or is he just taking his, little, spring vacation kind of thing? And it's trust me, I know. I saw the Okada documentary. I was on New Japan World, and I do think, with the quality that he's put out over the last few years and the damage he's done to his body, I do think he's hurting. But, we've seen for a while now that Okada kind of comes out with the tape back, and it kind of fits in to the story of his matches. And I'm like, yeah, I can believe he's hurt, but at the same time, too, I'm wondering if it's kind of part of the story of why he's not in the title picture. He's quote-unquote dealing with this injury, and that's something that's been holding him back.
It's definitely a possibility that it could be a little bit of both worlds. And as you mentioned, he came into this match with no tape back because he didn't want to draw attention in kayfabe to the bullseye target that, Shingo was paying attention to that the night before. This also gives Shingo, like you mentioned, a big win, but there's the plausible deniability that Okada, not that he would say it, but that it rests in the minds of the fans.
Right.
That he didn't beat him at his best.
Right. Could Shingo beat 100% Okada?
And so that's some of the stuff this is great storytelling. This is the kind of stuff I really love out of New Japan. And I'm excited for what happens down the road. For all the pick'em contests and everything like that, Kevin Kelly was even throwing some of those stats around. And he said I think it was 16% of people have Shingo winning the whole thing, and 23% of people that were predicting, this is probably for Sport of Pro Wrestling's overall contest, had Okada winning. So the ramifications of this first round, this is the biggest match in the whole first round because
this was the make or break for brackets. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, that this busted my bracket. I had Okada going to the finals.
This is the thing that did not bust my brackets because I still got, even though for instance, Okada Naito losing to Okan is a huge, detriment to my bracket. I have Shingo going all the way. And because he won this, there are certain guys that if they happen, let's say if it was Yano and he beat Okada, you don't have him go all the way. His story is just beating Okada. I think similar situation with Okan. He doesn't need to go all the way. He beat Naito. That's his big make or break moment, Mm-hmm. But someone the stature of Shingo beating Okada,
that's a big deal.
He kind of is made and kind of needs to
get to the finals.
He needs to at least get to the finals, and that's the way I have it set to go. So luckily for me, my bracket, I still got the bragging rights to say, I kind of booked Shingo out. Yeah, and I think that's what's going to happen.
After we did the preview show, both you and Chris were talking about Ospreay Shingo, I was like, damn, I think that's going to happen.
And the funny thing too is I hadn't looked at any of it. I wanted to be fresh. And I just kind of did the math in my head real quick. And I was like, well, that's probably what's going to, I just looked at the quadrants and I was like, that's probably the way it's going to shake out. So yeah, But great match. We had a lot of questions about this one.
Yeah, a lot of it revolving around Okada's injury. So first from Reddit user Stephen Rice says, can you put into perspective how amazing it is what Okada is doing right now? The man is suffering through a crippling injury and still pulls off an amazing match with Shingo. The man always delivers. His ability to work to the highest level with so many different opponents, no matter the circumstances, makes him an all-time great. One of the greatest there's ever been and still in his prime. Not many could put on that level of match, even healthy. Where do you rank Okada in the grand scheme of Japanese wrestling? To me, he's already reached the Misawa, Kobashi, Chono, Muto, etc. level. Also, his chemistry with Shingo is just incredible. I really hope he gets some much-needed rest and he can come back in full strength and maybe win the G1.
Well, I mean, I guess some of this kind of depends on what sort of parameters you use to gauge or judge. But if we were let's say if we were just going by recorded matches that were, rated already right now, Kazuchika Okada has more highly rated 5 and 4-star matches than any other wrestler in history. More than any other Japanese wrestler. More than Kenta Kobashi. More than Mitsuharu Misawa. More than all the Musketeers. Now, granted, more than Tanahashi. There's a lot of different time periods are judged differently. I'm sure a lot of the great work that the Four Pillars didn't always necessarily make tape. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we live in a very mediated age where everything that Okada does makes tape, but they weren't at the same level necessarily as he is when they were 32.
Right.
And he's 33 now. Sorry. So at 33, they were in their primes doing amazing work. But I do wonder about this back injury. What kind? We've seen a lot of guys have injuries, and sometimes they come back and they're not the same. And sometimes they're able to audible and adjust to become better because of it. Others are not able to, and it becomes a detriment to them.
I mean, I think of Dalton Castle with his back injury. That guy's just never been the same since he's come back. And
yeah, I think it depends. But you look at Shawn Michaels and how he was able to kind of revitalize his career after he came back. Muto, after he came back. Chono, different people like that. So I think a lot of the great wrestlers are able to kind of figure it out. Plus, here's the thing: we don't know how serious this is, or it's sort of a rumor at this point. I think it's a plausible one, but we don't really know the ins and outs of it at all.
Right. I mean, Dave is reporting what he's been hearing and how he's struggling in the locker room before and after the matches. So, not trying to discredit his source, but
I'm not either. But at the same time, we've seen them work injuries in New Japan.
Right, and we've seen Dave get worked by injuries before too.
Yes, greatly. So there's a part of me that's well, people have been wondering, well, what do we do with Okada? After he dropped the title, what do you do with him? Well, maybe he needs a new narrative. Well, what's the narrative? Bad back. He's good friends with the Young Bucks.
Calls him up. Hey, Matt, man, I need a new idea.
Matt's I got an idea for you. I wore tape on my back for a year. It made my matches so much better. It was fantastic. So who knows, man? We don't really know. And I'm not trying to make light of the situation, but I'm just saying, it's a carny business. People be working.
Right. This could be a work. Don't get me wrong. Like I said earlier, I'm sure he has to be hurting in somewhat. It's the amount of wear and tear his body's been through in the recent year. Like you mentioned, all those highly rated matches. So I'm sure his body is hurting, but to the point where, he's still going out here putting on these amazing matches. It's and with the back being the sole focus point of it. You would think if it was a really serious back injury that maybe they would try and work something else so the back is not being focused on.
We'll see. I don't know. Rambone Slim Pig asked us, he said, with the news that Okada's been dealing with a couple herniated discs, do you think he will remain out of the title picture this year?
Well, with all the big shows they have planned, I think you need Okada in some of those main events. Like we mentioned earlier, I think you can market Okada challenging for the world heavyweight title as a big deal. And so I think you're going to need that match for maybe one of this either Stadium or the Dome, Dominion, one of these big cards. You're going to have to pull the Okada challenging for the world title out of the hat. So I do think he will be kind of in and out of the title picture. Maybe not win the title, but I think you still need to use him there.
I agree with you. Dom Homie 101 is asking, with the report that Okada's dealing with the back injury, do you think it's time for him to take a break from the ring and instead instead of potentially making the injury worse? And I think that if it's serious enough to where it could have long-lasting damage, and his day-to-day life is, from like the way it's being posed and painted, like excruciatingly painful, I think he does need to take the time away and, go get himself fixed up so that he can, come back and work. It's not the best time, obviously, in a pandemic, but, there never is a best time.
Right. Next question here from Radizer Viking Pain. He says, with Okada's back injury and Naito's knee injury, both men must not be feeling good right now. So why haven't the company just forced both men to take the rest off of the tour and to heal up? They're both eliminated already.
I mean, I've got to imagine that there's a potential that maybe, there's a lot of scenarios. Maybe they're working out a timeline to where they can safely, and by safely, I mean financially, allow them the time off to go away, There's also the potential that these injuries aren't as serious as we thought they were, and they've been cleared and they're like okay to go, and maybe they're like working some of this into the stories. There's also the potential that like both the company and the wrestlers themselves don't feel that these injuries are pressing enough to forego the financial obligations that they're facing in the midst of a pandemic, which might, is not necessarily the way everyone else feels things should be done, but in Japan, that's pretty common for business.
And maybe this undercard stuff that they're doing is going to be setting up some of these bigger shows that we're talking about. So, we're seeing a lot of Chaos versus LIJ versus United Empire. Maybe they're building, and we talk about this Ospreay Naito match, maybe in these undercards, we're going to see something like that, kind of seeds planted. Then once the cup is over, you can kind of point back to like, oh yeah, they did kind of start, jawing at each other back on these, undercard shows.
Yeah. He also asked, he said, let me try to be ahead with Okada and the money clip. I theorize that the use of the money clip now is to serve two purposes. One, it's a secondary finisher to put lower level guys down like Ospreay's Oscutter or Hiromu's Time Bomb number 1, thus rehabbing the Rainmaker into the monster finish it once was. Usually it's the other way around. Guys develop a new finisher to put down tougher opponents, but once they move up, but Okada did the opposite, so it's confusing to see why he's using a move less effective than the Rainmaker. Number 2, the move gives Okada a rest hold he can use in matches because he needs it now. Okada may have experimented with the red ink and the Cobra Clutch, but now he's found an even easier move to apply, the dreaded money clip. But Okada has been working at such a high level ever since he came back from Excursion, and now all those matches and bumps are starting to take a toll on his body, and he's going through a lot of wear and tear now, like his neck and injury in 2017, his knee injury in 2019, and now his back injury. So if you put that in perspective, I'm fine with the use of the money clip now if it could preserve Okada's body long term. What are your thoughts?
So I know you and I, we've talked about working holds and rest holds, and it's a discussion in the group chat that pops up every once in a while too. And I don't buy into he has to do the money clip to rest. Like, there are ways to do submission holds where you're not doing a lot of work, but you can make it look very painful. You can work the hole. There's different holes you could do that it's not really putting much strain on you, but you can it still looks more effective and more dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite guys to watch work holds, actually maybe two of my favorite guys are like Kurt Hennig and Nick Bockwinkel. And, they wouldn't just slap a hold on you and sit there and wrench it, and do all that. They would do a lot of active defense, So once a guy was in it, they would do things. They would try to fight out of the move, maybe try to work into their own move, maybe try to cradle a guy for a pinfall. They don't get it. Oh, they're back. There'd be a lot of movement, a lot of circling. It wouldn't just be sitting in a hold. They would transition in the holds into other holds that would still work the same body part. There's a difference between a rest hold and working a hold. You can make the same move dynamic or a slog depending on how you work it. And I think we've always said, we've never outright said that the money clip in and of itself as a move is a shit move. I don't think it's a shit move. It's
set up into getting into it.
Yeah, it's the way he sets it up, and it's the way they work it. And I don't know, man. Could it be that this is a byproduct of the fact he has bad back? Possibly. I mean, I don't know. My wrestling knowledge isn't that deep, but I still feel like it's a troll, man. I feel like it's a troll. Like the crowds die when he does it, and even in a COVID era where it's hard to gauge what the crowd response even is, what's getting over, what's not getting over, you can't really tell. But one thing I can tell you, that money clip is not fucking over. No one likes that shit.
Right.
The crowds die when he puts it on.
Because he is resting and kind of killing the momentum. Like you get these great
kills the momentum. In
great
matches.
Sequences of lariat counters, and then he locks in the money clip, and it's like.
Yeah. Now there could be some truth to the idea that they're rehabbing the Rainmaker. That's possible.
Yeah, I do think that. Yeah.
I mean, I think that what's funny is Kota Ibushi unveiled the Kamigoye, I don't know, what was that, 2018? No, it wasn't. It was 2019. He brought that shit out for the G1, I'm pretty sure.
I think so, yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe
it might have been 2018. I can't remember.
But yeah, it's probably further back, 2018, because him and Kenny Omega were doing that together.
Right.
Wow.
The what they called
Golden Trigger.
Yeah.
But it's dead now. He's got to hit it 3 times to put people down, already.
Right.
Then he's gonna have to come up with another new move.
Gonna pull that Phoenix Splash
or something.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anything else on this? I think that pretty much answers all those questions. I think we can move on to the March 7th show.
Yep. So March 7th opened up with the continuing rivalry between Yota Tsuji and Yumura. Tsuji defeated Yumura 6 minutes 56 seconds.
I watched this match. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And we had a question from Mike Payne. Said, how confident are you guys in Mexico taking care of our boys Tsuji and Yumura after what happened to Porco Wato?
I don't blame CMLL or Mexico. I mean, they've got a fantastic track record of producing, great Japanese stars through their excursion system. Tsuji and Yumura are both talking about potentially going to Mexico on excursion. Also, I mean, Gabe Kidd is talking about being ready to graduate. So all 3 guys are having that discussion pretty openly. So I don't know what's going to happen given, the travel bans and everything, but we'll see. I saw this match, thought it was very good. I always like when these 2 guys wrestle.
Yeah, can't go wrong with a Tsuji and Yumura match.
Obviously, Tsuji won because he's gearing up for his first round match with Nagata.
Right. Then we had Okan and Cobb defeating Kojima and Hanma. And then third matchup, we had Tanahashi, Juice, Taguchi, and Toa Hanare defeating Dick Togo, Evil, Jay White, and Kenta. Then fourth match, we had Bushi, Sanada, Shingo, and Naito defeating the Chaos team of Goto, Okada, Sho, and Tomohiro Ishii. Then we get to New Japan Cup action in the semi-main event. We had Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Gabriel Kidd, 17 minutes, 21 seconds.
Possibly my favorite New Japan match of the New Japan Cup this year. I don't know if I'd say it's the single best match, but I mean, it's not far off from that Shingo and Okada match at all. This was just phenomenal. Now, you don't often get matches quite like this because not everybody is as adept or well-versed in this British style of wrestling that these guys were doing. In fact, a lot of what they're doing reminds me a lot of the training that I do, that I'm learning. And also, I mean, this was a higher level of what the Young Lion matches are like. Essentially, this was basically a much more skilled, much more time-given, high-level Young Lion match, essentially. And they just went out there, and it was hold for hold, counter for counter. Zack Sabre looked great. Gabe Kidd looked great. There was many points early on where I thought Zack was going to put Gabe out, just like he typically would in any other like showcase, Young Lion match. But then they kept giving it more and more time. He kept getting out, and then towards the end, I mean, some of those false finishes, like I didn't think Gabe Kidd was going to win, but man, they really like got you close to biting on it. I thought this was phenomenal. Just so great.
Yeah, a lot of great wrestling here. You see Zack Sabre Jr., and there's a reason why he continues to win Best Technical Wrestler in the Observer Awards. The man is just so good. It's been a while since we've really seen him in single action here. And working with Gabe Kidd, a guy who, has that kind of UK wrestling background and has been starting to pull it out more and more in the last recent months. So this was like a perfect mesh of styles here for both these guys. And like you mentioned, kind of, a lot of it was just basic wrestling, kind of that what you would see in a Young Lion match, but also with Sabre in there, kind of more maybe advanced transitions and submissions and holds. And yeah, this was a really great match, a match to really kind of elevate Gabriel Kidd and show what he can do, and putting him on that level of technical masterpiece. And so it's almost like a glimpse of like what we could see when he returns from excursion, kind of being on a level of a guy like Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, this is probably one of the best performances that I've ever seen a Young Lion have in one of these tournaments. So hats off to Gabe Kidd. Really liked it. I loved Zack Sabre post-match, the way he was selling it all, just saying like, I went 17 minutes for the Young Lion. Well, I haven't had a singles match in 4 months. That was a warm-up for me. I was playing with him. I was toying with him. I was just getting loose. That was a warm-up. He's like, I can still go. And, like, clearly he got pushed by Gabe Kidd.
Right.
But in his heel persona, he wants to say, no, I was in control the whole time.
Yeah.
I created this situation. I was just, that was a sparring match.
Yeah, that's a warm-up for me.
But it wasn't a warm-up. Like, this was a war. It was really awesome.
It's back and forth. Yeah, a lot of great strikes and submissions. Towards the end here, Sabre, he locks in the triangle armbar to get the win and tap out Gabriel Kidd.
Yes. And I liked that because we've seen him beat guys like Ishii and one of the War Raiders in the past with it, but he doesn't bust that out all the time. So, I mean, it was fitting that he beat a Young Lion with that move, as opposed to some of the, I don't even know the names of the finishers that, like, Zack Sabre uses.
All his weird British song.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a great matchup here. Then the main event of the evening.
Rambo and Slam Pig asked.
Oh, yeah, I missed that.
He said, Gabe Kidd in ZSJ was amazing. Can you think of a better performance from a Young Lion in a big tournament in recent years? What do you see in Kidd's immediate... what do you see for Kidd immediately as the pandemic comes to an end? I'm really impressed with all of his work since he ended up in Japan.
I think Mora had looked really good in Best of Super Juniors.
I'd agree. I thought this was beyond any of those performances.
Right, yeah.
I don't know that he was given the opportunity to do quite the same thing, though.
Right, he was given like 10-minute kind of shorter matches.
I mean, a lot of Young Lions have looked good in tournaments. I remember Shooter Amino had a really great match with Tanahashi in the New Japan Cup a couple years back.
Yep.
I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have... Ren Narita had some great performances in the Super Juniors, but like for a single match, this has probably been the best one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not very often we're talking about 4 stars or 4 stars plus for a Young Lion.
Right, yeah. So this was definitely a big like feather in the cap here for Gabriel Kidd.
And Zack Sabre.
Yeah.
But, it's not really fair because Gabe Kidd's not really a Young Lion.
Right. He was a full-on, trained UK wrestler and kind of had to rebuild and start from scratch.
Yeah, he wrestled extensively on the European Indies, for years and years and years before he came over. So, I mean, he's working from a different base than most Lions, quote unquote. He's closer to like Juice, but like when Juice joined the dojo, but he's even beyond that.
Right, yeah. So the main event, the battle between the Empire and Tenkoji continued here in this first round match main event as Will Ospreay defeated Hiroyoshi Tenzan 13 minutes and 37 seconds. We're seeing the return of the Mongolian chop. They completely.
I'm not a fan of that.
I'm not a fan of that either. They completely threw the stipulation away, essentially just saying, the stips don't matter. Like, what was the point of even doing that stip if they weren't going to keep it up?
To bamboozle us, to get us to invest in a match.
Right. We spent weeks analyzing, this is going to be a way to, get Okan over, get him heat when he does the Mongolian chop.
Well, what happened is, Tenzan probably was like, I don't fucking like this. I want him back. And then, they were like, well, I guess nothing could happen if we did it. And they're like, all right, we're going to do it. All right. Fuck. Nothing. Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, so, the chops are back. Not a fan of that, but overall, I thought this was a pretty good match considering where Tenzan is in his career. And obviously, he's working Ospreay, who's one of the best. And it was kind of similar to the Hanuman Suzuki, not quite at that level, but Ospreay was kind of in the right places for Tenzan, kind of working around Tenzan.
Every year, Tenzan is asked to show up for the New Japan Cup and really perform, and he does. I mean, to the best of his abilities. There was even a few, there was one moment he gave the TTD.
Yes, yeah.
And it looked real rough. And I was like, God, if I was Ospreay and I had this much riding on my, career, I don't know if I'd let Tenzan give me that move because it looked rough. But the match was fine. I saw some people, really talking about, especially Dave Meltzer, but some other people being like, Will carried him, And I'm like, to what? A 3.5-star match? I'm sorry. It's not that great. I'm not trying to bury Will. Will's great. I think Tenzan's fine. But I think Tenzan's just capped at a level to I don't care who it is. He's not going to wrestle beyond this level anymore,
Right.
And this was fine. I thought it was a good little match. I didn't think that, one thing I did notice with this crowd was super empty for most of the show and then filled up for the last 2 matches. So there was definitely interest in these last couple matches, but for the undercard there wasn't a lot of interest.
Yeah, also too, I wonder if it's kind of the earlier start time. I'm not sure if they're still doing that and people having a harder time getting to there at the beginning of the show.
For commutes and work and stuff.
Yeah.
But this, I don't know. It was just, I just thought it was goofy when I was hearing Dave be like, Ospreay carried him. And I was like, well, for instance, I don't think this was that far off from the match he had with, what's his name? Okan from the last tour.
Oh, the Okan Tenzan match. Yeah.
And that wasn't a blowaway match either. And this wasn't they were both fine. You know what I mean? I think Tenzan can go out there and he can try. And when he tries, it means a little bit more intensity. It means he's going to, do a diving headbutt and do a TTD and try a moonsault. But he's still immobile. He still can't move. And he's not far off from where Nakanishi was when Nakanishi retired. So, it is what it is. So, I thought the match was inegregious, but I didn't think Will pulled off a miracle here. And people were talking Will pulled this miracle off. And it's
if this match was 4.5,
if it was a 4-star match, then I'd be like, holy shit. And I'm not saying Will couldn't do that, but that's not what happened.
That wasn't the purpose of this match.
And it's not what happened either.
Right. But yeah, Ospreay, he hits the good old Chris Hero elbow to the back of the head.
Oh, that looked vicious. It wasn't, but it looked. And here's the funny thing. They're not allowed to slap their thighs over in WWE anymore, but you can see, for instance, a move like this where you need the thigh slap.
Right, to get that loud.
Because, bro, you know what? Do you see thigh slaps?
For super kicks, I do.
I never see them. I'm always paying attention to the other hand. I'm a magician who does what's it called? Misdirection?
Yeah, sleight of the hand.
Sleight of hand?
Yeah.
I must be the biggest sucker because I'm always following the hand that I always see the strike and then I hear the and I'm like, oh fuck. I remember the first time I took an ex to an NXT show and she's like, they're all slapping their legs. And I was like, what? I was like, When? And I knew it happened, but I never see it. I never see
For
when
other stuff, I really don't see it, but super kicks, I definitely see it.
There are other times where other body parts are slapped that I'm becoming keenly aware of because of my training that like no one talks about, that I know about now, that like, you know, other people don't know about. It's kind of cool. But, you know, yeah, it's just funny. Like, you know, slap stuff. It's like, it's been 50 years in wrestling. How do you think that the sounds get produced safely? You know, you want these guys to fucking cock each other? Like, the hell?
Oh, man. But yeah, so Ospreay. The
Ospreay is great, man. That elbow was awesome.
Yeah, the rolling elbow.
I was surprised. I don't know. I didn't think he was going to give 10s on the
Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker. He got him up, and I was like, oh, fuck. They're doing it.
You're going to take this bump, old man. So, yeah, Ospreay gets the win there. Advance, so he'll face Zack Sabre Jr. in the next round. Get a rematch of their little series they had in 2019.
So, yes.
Was that 2020?
It was last year, man.
Man,
It was last year.
dude, 2020
It was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, that's why, like, pre-pandemic, I feel like was 2019. Everything was 2019.
So far, right now, based on the projections, that's my most anticipated second round match.
Yeah.
And it probably, the only other match that will probably rival it is maybe Tanahashi and Jay White. But I think I'm most excited about this match.
I mean, Shingo and Goto.
Nope.
I'm
excited about that. I'm excited about quite a few matches. Cobb and Evil. That's probably gonna suck.
Yeah.
It's like you know what happens is I think about Evil from before, and I keep thinking like, oh, it could be good because if he goes out and he tries the way he used to, but then I'm like, he's not gonna.
Right, Dick Togo's gonna come out and try and choke him, and then
I keep working myself into thinking like, well, you never know. He might go out there and put in a G1 performance. Nope. Anyways, we had a show today, March 9th, to open the show. Bullet Club team Fale, Evil, Yujiro defeated Chaos's Yano, Yoshihashi, and Young Lion Yuya Uemura. Second match of the night, Great Khan, Jeff Cobb, and Will Ospreay of the United Empire defeated Gabe Kidd, Satoshi Kojima, and Tomoaki Hanma. Third match of the night, Finjuice and Tanahashi and Toa Henare. They defeated the Bullet Club team of Owens, Gato, Jay White, and Kenta. Fourth match of the night, Goto, Okada, and Sho defeated the LIJ team of Bushi, Shingo, and Naito. That brings us to our top two matches of the night, both New Japan Cup round matches. We opened up with Yuji Nagata versus Yota Tsuji.
Yeah, and this was a very good matchup here. You know, we always see Nagata taking on the Young Lions. Essentially, it was that, but it's probably a little bit more time and just Tsuji really kind of taking the fight to Nagata, kind of unloading. There was one part he just unloading those slaps on Nagata. Just a real kind of a strong style matchup there. Throwing the Mount Tsuji body splash, kind of throwing everything he can at him.
Yeah, he's got the body splash, and then he has a new running senton,
yep.
Which is like basically a flip bump. And I was like, I think I could do that. I like that. It's really, really cool what he's doing there. Like you said, this is just an amped up version of a Dad versus Lion match. I kind of thought it was going to end pretty early, especially when not early, but like earlier than it actually did, especially when it get him in the Nagata lock 2.
Yeah.
And they're close to the ropes, and it seemed like that was going to be the finish. And Tsuji fought out of it. They continued the match. Ultimately, Nagata put him down with the what does he call it?
The backdrop.
Backdrop driver pin hold, and got the 1, 2, 3. I thought Tsuji looked very good here. I thought Nagata looked great, and Nagata advances. This was exactly what you expected here.
Yeah, and Nagata he had a great spinning heel kick before he did the backdrop hold.
I didn't notice that. Yeah. I didn't pay as much attention on this night just because the crowd wasn't as into it. The show overall wasn't as high caliber as some of the other shows, and these two matches I just wasn't as interested in, to be honest with you. The main event, though, was Sonata versus Ishii. And during the preview matches, we had quite a few stare-offs between Ishii and Sonata. And, I mean, when I say stare-offs, that's literally all that happened. It was just these two guys. They were in all these preview matches, and they were just staring hard.
Well, I know at the anniversary show, post-match, they kind of had a little shoving match afterwards.
Yeah, they had a little something. But, I mean, there was, like, for me, this is, like, the least heat of anything. And Kevin Kelly tried to inject some life into this on one of the other shows. He said, you know, are there any two personalities more polar opposite? You've got, you know, the stoic, cool, calm, collected Sonata, and then, you know, Ishii, who wears his, you know, emotions on his sleeve, and he's just like a spark plug. But I don't think that, for me personally, I didn't think that translated well into this match or into this feud or the build. I thought the match was fine.
Just fine?
You like this match a lot?
Dude, I do. If Sonata wrestled more like this, I'd be so much more into him. Like this,
I felt like Sonata was wrestling like Sonata wrestles every time.
I don't know. I felt like he like took it to another level, and like we talk about like wrestling to the level the guys in there with, and I feel like he wrestled an Ishii match. Like they were doing the never style of a lot of, you know, getting up after big moves, a lot of strike exchanges.
I guess for me, what it was is like Sonata's athletics, what he does in the ring, it's highly impressive. I mean, at no time is this guy not like actually physically exerting himself on a high level. I mean, he's doing crazy chain wrestling. He's doing high flying. He's doing large strikes, you know, lots of bumping. I mean, this guy, it's not that he's not animated or anything like that. I mean, most wrestlers couldn't keep up with the pace that he keeps, but it's the facials, man. And it's the lack of passion in what he's doing. Like, I don't believe most of the things that he's doing. And I don't know, for me, maybe I'd have to rewatch it. This is kind of a long match, though. It just felt the same as it always does for me. I mean, I'm looking at the cage match. 7.91 is the rating, so that's based on 45 votes. They're not far off from what you're saying, so maybe they were just more into it. Maybe it's also because I just knew Sonata was beating Ishii, and the clap crowd possibly could have brought it down for me. Yeah. So there's more people who are probably agreeing more so with you than me.
Yeah, I mean, I was like in a 4-star range of it, and I thought there was just a lot of great, near falls encounters in this match. A lot of great back and forth between the Brain Buster and the Skull End, and just seeing Sonata wrestle more of that never style and kind of fire. Actually, you know, showing some fire, actually firing up after getting taken down with some big moves. They had like a backdrop exchange where they were hitting backdrops and getting right back up and going at each other. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I feel like if Sonata could wrestle more of this pace, more of this style, I think it would do better for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm maybe I should pay more attention to this match because, as I mentioned earlier on the show, like I just wasn't feeling this. There's also the chance that like I feel fatigued from watching so many shows back to back to back to back. You know, we had a 1-day break and we're right back in it. I did notice, though, that the chain wrestling exchanges at the end were very, very good, you know, constantly going from Skull's End into, you know, there was one moment where, like, Ishii got him all the way up, and it looked like he was about to hit him with the Brain Buster, and I was, like, biting on that, and then Sonata got out of it, and ultimately Sonata ended up hitting that moonsault and set it up very beautifully. I mean, the counters and counter exchanges at the end were great. But I don't know. I wasn't feeling this match, man. And you know what's funny? Usually when I say that, if I go back, I don't usually change my mind on the second viewing afterwards. But Sonata beat him, which means Sonata's next in line against Nagata. And the winner of that match will face the winner of Zack and Ospreay. So we're literally down to the bottom quadrant of this tournament.
Yeah. And before we move on to just announcing the upcoming matches, we had a question from Ricky over the Ricky and Clyde Wrestling Show from Scotland here on the network. What's been your favorite night so far?
My favorite night was easily the evening where we had Shingo and Okada as well as Honma against Suzuki.
Yeah, that was the Saturday, March 6th show. Yeah, so overall, yeah, I agree with you. That was my favorite night too. And then Muzza asked us, he said, how are your brackets going? Mine are already busted.
I mean, I'm 10-3 right now, and we have 3 more matches left in this round. So there's 16 overall.
Yeah.
So I believe I'm going to be, well, you know, these last few ones are tough.
Yeah, the last, I would say 2 out of 3 are toss-ups.
Yeah, that quadrant with Finley, Owens, Yoshihashi, and Yujiro could go any way, really, because they're inconsequential. Because most likely, whether it's, and I would actually say whether it's Toa Hanari, Jay, or Hiroshi Tanahashi, whoever comes out of that bottom quadrant, part of the quadrant is going to go on. Unless hypothetically, like they want to, like, I don't know, push Dave Finley. Like, I could see where Dave Finley might beat Toa Hanari. But I think Hanari would probably beat Yujiro, Yoshihashi, or Chase Owens in singles action.
You would think, but
I feel like in this tournament, okay. Normally, I would say that's a toss-up, but if he beat Jay White.
Yeah, if he beat Jay White, then
he beat Jay White, and then he beat Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Then he would have to beat those guys, yeah.
Then he has to beat literally, actually, all four of them. Dave Finley's the only guy I could maybe give a plausible win over him, but that would be like, well, then why did you have him beat Jay and
Tanahashi? Yeah,
and we're talking about like far-fetched scenarios. That's probably not happening. So the reality is either Jay or Tanahashi, most likely Jay, are coming out of that bottom part, and none of those four guys is beating Jay White unless something real, unless it's a shocker, you know.
Right.
Dave Finley finally beats Jay White in a New Japan Cup. That'd be crazy. But so that's why it's a toss-up. But I feel confident. I'm pretty sure I picked Dave Finley and Yujiro.
Yeah, I think that's what you picked, yeah.
And I feel confident that it's going to go that way. And I feel like I'm going to end the first round 13-3.
I have the potential of ending 13-3 also, but then, moving on to the later rounds, I'm going to have less of a chance of doing well just because I had Okada going into my my finals. Well,
I really think Evil is going to beat Jeff Cobb. And I felt like I had booked Naito to be in that spot. So, with Naito kind of being the guy, I felt like I had a better shot at kind of curbing Evil. But because it's going to be Okan beating Yano, I don't see them doing Jeff Cobb against Okan in the infancy of the United Empire. So Evil's definitely getting through to fight Okan.
Right.
In the semifinals. From there, it's anybody's guess. But I didn't have either of those guys going. I had Naito going through. So
yeah, I had Evil going into semifinals,
so. and that's probably what I should have done. I also picked Jeff Cobb to beat Evil because I didn't want to see. I was like, Naito just made the most sense for me, and I didn't want to see Naito and Naito and Evil again. So I had Cobb Naito as like the match.
Yeah, I think an Evil Shingo semifinal makes a ton of sense.
I feel very confident about the. I've got Kenta and Shingo in the semifinal.
Well, that semi or quarter?
Quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, that's my quarterfinal. For the bottom left quadrant is Shingo and Kenta. So I think Kenta's going to get past Suzuki.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I feel like they're trying to keep the momentum going from the Jon Moxley match with him.
Yeah, and also probably rehab him a little bit too.
Right.
Plus, we've seen Shingo and Suzuki so many times.
Right, yeah. So last year we saw it a lot, yeah.
So I feel good about that bottom part of my quadrant, but the top left, I'm probably fucked. On the top right, I've got Will going through to face Sonata and beating Sonata, and I think that's probably how most people have it. And
that's what I have.
That's the way it's looking to kind of, pan out. So I feel pretty good there. And then the bottom part, I'm guessing Jay beats Dave Finley.
Yeah, I have Jay and Ospreay as a semifinal.
So based on what we're seeing right now, we're kind of projecting Evil against Shingo for a semifinal on the left side, and Will Ospreay against Jay White on the right side.
Yeah.
And you're talking about, at that point, 3 heels and 1 face in Shingo.
Right.
So maybe it wouldn't really pan out quite that way,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. But that's the way it's looking right now.
Yeah, and you could get Shingo versus Jay or Ospreay there. So, in the finals.
But, yeah, that top left part, I'm kind of screwed on that part of the bracket, but who knows? I mean, I think I'm still going to end up with Will and Shingo in the finals,
which should be a great finals. So I kind of hope it is that.
So let's run down what we've got upcoming. So March 10th, we have 3, and also I am not a fan of them splitting up all these matches like so far out. Like that's been the hard part. March 10th, Dave Finlay and Chase Owens, Yoshihashi versus Yujiro, and then finally Toa Henare and Jay White. Winner will face Hiroshi Tanahashi on March 15th. We kind of gone over our winners. I don't have any big thoughts here, except for, I think they've done a good job kind of building anticipation on the undercards between Jay White and Toa Henare.
Yeah. Then on March 11th, we have Evil versus Jeff Cobb and the Great Okan versus Toru Yano.
They ran some angles on some of the previous undercard nights where after Jeff Cobb won his deciding match against Kojima, Evil and Dick Togo started like using the Groat Wire and choking out Jeff Cobb. So, Jeff Cobb, even though it's a heel versus heel match, he's kind of like on a war path to get his hands on Evil at this point.
Yeah. Then March 13th, we have Hiroki Goto versus Shingo Takagi and Minoru Suzuki versus Kenta.
That looks like to be one of the better nights of. It's only 2 matches, but I mean, both of those matches should be bangers.
Yeah. And then on March 14th, we have Will Ospreay versus Zack Sabre Jr. and Yuji Nagata versus Sonata.
I think Sonata and Nagata is a foregone conclusion. We just saw a singles match between them on the previous tour, and it wasn't anything special. It was fine.
Maybe it's time for Nagata to get that win back.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Put this man in the Nagata lock.
But I don't know. Sonata just beat Ishii pretty definitively. So, but Will Ospreay versus Zack Sabre is going to be awesome.
Yeah, they always have great matches, and if Will wins, it'll be a big deal because the first time he'll beat Zack in New Japan, he beat him in Rev Pro.
That's correct.
Last year, so that would be a big deal and kind of the next kind of wrinkle in their rivalry.
March 15th, the winner of Chase Owens and Dave Finlay will face the winner of Yoshihashi and Yujiro Takahashi, and then the winner of Jay White and Toa Henare will fight Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yep, so those will be all the shows that will happen before the next time we record again. So obviously next week we'll be back to review all those matches.
So we're going, oh my God. So 2 nights, one day break, and then 3 nights back to back. So God, that's 5 nights. That's a lot, man.
Yeah.
The one thing that's nice is because we are kind of skipping the undercards, it makes it sort of easy. But like I'm also keeping up with the post matches to kind of keep me in the loop with the stories, so I kind of have more context.
Yeah.
So it still takes time. It's a
Yeah.
lot of
those post matches. Yeah. You don't think they take the time, but they're like
25 minutes.
Yeah, they're like 30-minute videos.
So let's talk about Friday night, the road to Strong Style Evolve 2021. Jeremy, I feel confident when I say this. I think this is possibly, maybe even probably, the best night of New Japan Strong I've ever seen.
Yeah, I watched this show right before we recorded. Yeah, this was a solid lineup here on this Road to Strong Style Evolve show. Opened up, we had the return of Alex Coughlin, the return of Carl Fredericks, both men out with injuries, and they faced off against their LA Dojo cohorts in Clark Connors and Kevin Knight. Coughlin and Fredericks getting the win here. All 4 guys looked really, really good here. Coughlin was really fired up, and these guys are just so good. The wrestling was so really, really good here. And, like, these guys are the future. And a lot of people kind of ask, where are the youth? Where are the guys that New Japan is building? Well, the guys all 4 of these guys are right here in this ring, especially, Fredericks, Coughlin, and Connors. Kevin Knight's just kind of starting out there, but Coughlin, Fredericks, and Connors.
Bro, all 4 of them are just so good. Coughlin really showcasing a lot of neck strength, a lot of bridging maneuvers, a lot of like kind of innovative offense to kind of showcase that he has no issues with his neck. He's completely rehabbed and he's back. He cut a really, really great fiery promo about being out for 7 months and how he didn't know if he'd ever be able to do this again. And now, he's looking to make his mark, which is awesome.
He'd come and watch and support his brothers, but he'd wear a hat so nobody would see him crying because he wouldn't know if he'd be able to do it again.
Yeah, that's some real shit. I like that. But these guys, man, I mean, we get a lot of tag team matches in New Japan, but this felt different. The style, the intensity, the layout of the match. I mean,
and it just felt like an opener that made sense, like New Japan wise. Normally, you do see like the Young Lions kind of going at each other instead of kind of these random, Brody King and whoever versus whoever. But it's kind of made sense.
These guys, you're investing in them because they're part of the system.
Right.
The other thing, too, is they recently announced that Clark Connors is now graduated. So you got Connors as well as Fredericks both graduated out of this quartet, and then Coughlin and Kevin Knight are still Lions. And, everybody went out there and just fucking kicked ass. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah. And then after that, we had the qualifying match up for New Japan Cup USA 2021 as Tom Lawler defeated the DKC in 9 minutes 13 seconds.
DKC I haven't been the biggest supporter or fan of his, but he's made some strides as he's kind of stepped into this new phase of his career being a member of the LA Dojo. But this match was awesome. Tom Lawler is fantastic, and DKC really was able to kind of innovate or just string together a lot more of his like sort of karate and mixed martial arts based offense. And that fits right in the roundhouse of like what Tom Lawler does. And one thing I liked about the match is like, you thought Tom Lawler was going to eat him up alive. And instead it was sort of like, he couldn't figure this guy out. DKC just
kind of unorthodox. And so, yeah, Tom had to kind of, think a little bit more than probably what he thought to. But
I think he just, like, caught him off guard with his youth and his, like, his will and his desire and everything like that. And, like, Tom Lawler took him a little lightly and
at first
kind of created too many openings. And this was another hard-hitting match.
And Lawler was just doing some awesome, like, suplexes and slams. Yes. There was, like, one where he got him, like, all the way.
That one was fucking scary.
Yeah, I was like, he's going to drop him on his head.
And he just fucking slammed him. And that's one of those things, like, you just got to know how to bump. That's the deal. Like, I don't think that was something planned. I think it was sort of, like, improvised in the moment. But he was just like, all right, well, I guess I'm going for the ride.
Yeah.
And, the end of the match, Tom Lawler kept trying to go for the rear naked. DKC kept getting out of it. Finally, he got him in it. 1, 2, 3, put him to sleep. And 9 minutes, 13 seconds. This match was awesome and made me want to see more of Tom Lawler in the New Japan Cup. Really great.
Definitely.
They also got a new layout for the apron or for the canvas and everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Look at that strong logo in the middle of the ring now.
Yeah. And then the main event was Lio Rush taking on Rocky Romero. We had pre-match hype videos at the start of the hour. They kind of showed a lot of this on the social media as well, kind of hyping up that this was a generational match between, the modern New Day school with Lio Rush and then the old school, kind of the old guard in Rocky Romero. And that's sort of the story they told, is that Rocky was, the more experienced, knowledgeable one, whereas Lio Rush was more innovative, maybe more athletic and faster.
Yeah, and Rocky's saying, if he won a New Japan Cup, he didn't want to challenge Jon Moxley. He wants a challenge for the junior heavyweight title.
I liked that story.
Yeah, finally get the title that's been eluding him, because he won it as Black Tiger, but he wants the record book to say Rocky Romero as junior champion. So,
speaking of which, I didn't even mention this. Jay White has been on the post matches discussing how if all that you have to do to get the titles to be combined is be the champion and simply ask for it, then all you have to do to get them switched is win the titles and say, I want to split these two titles up. And he keeps saying the reason he wants to do it is because he doesn't want his name and his legacy erased from the record books. And I was like, that makes sense. Evil also talked about how he's like, well, if all you got to do to create a new belt is just ask for it, when I win, I'm going to institute something else. And he is like, and it's going to be completely different. It's not going to be an IWGP title. It's going to be something new. So like, wow. Yeah, there's a lot of people kind of throwing out their own narratives.
But the IWGP doesn't accept everybody's requests. Naito was asking for a year to defend the belt separately. They didn't listen to him.
Yeah, they didn't listen to him, and I thought about that.
So
this man was like, "Can I please, honor these belts and defend them, separately?" And they're like, "Nah, never mind all that. Give that shit over to Ibushi.
So we had this.
It's not for you, baby."
This Lio Rush Rocky main event. I thought it was a really good match. Probably Lio Rush's best performance here on Strong.
This is his best New Japan match.
Yeah. Rocky's just so good, so underrated. And I think we say that every time we see him in action, but he's just one of those things that people don't really talk about often until he kind of has these moments here. And
I voted for him as New Japan USA MVP last year. He didn't get very many votes, but I think I might have voted him number one. I don't remember, but I thought Rocky and Leo had a great match. They went out there, told a great story. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Leo beat him with a cradle.
Yeah, they had a sequence at the end where like Rocky had him cradled up, and then Lio Rush reversed it into his cradle of his own and got the pin.
This whole show is like, I don't want to say Inokiism, but it's not far off from like what his intentions of what he wanted New Japan in America to be like when he started his dojo. I mean, you look at the styles of matches, and I mean, these guys are all incorporating MMA. They're all incorporating the hard-hitting never style. I mean, this is strong style evolved, which is what the fucking, tagline of the tour is. This was awesome. Next week, we got Adrian Quest and Barrett Brown versus the Regal Twins. The second match of the night, New Japan Cup USA qualifier, Hikuleo against Jordan Clearwater, and the main event will be Fred Rosser versus JR Kratos in a qualifier. So it almost sounds like, even though it's an 8-man tournament, it's almost like a 60-man tournament because the qualifiers are basically de facto
tournament matches.
One thing we did hear was reported by JCast and then confirmed by Dave Meltzer that New Japan has decided not to utilize the Marty Scurll footage or have him featured in New Japan anytime in the near future or for the foreseeable future. So, we didn't even do like a big breakdown of that controversial subject, and now it's not happening.
Yeah, I had that here in the news, and we had a question from Viking Pains. It seems like New Japan finally took a stance on Marty. He's no longer going to be involved with the company. I just have to ask, is this the end of Marty Scurll, and was this one of the biggest falls from grace a wrestler has ever experienced?
It's possible. I mean, there's been some pretty spectacular falls from grace throughout the history of professional wrestling. I don't know. I mean, I think Hulk Hogan might be the worst one. Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
Just throwing them out there. So I don't know. But I mean, here's the thing. I struggle to like praise the company and be like, good on you for not utilizing the footage that you taped.
Yeah, knowing what was happening.
I told Jeremy, I was like, I kind of think this is what happened. They were like, well, yeah, New Japan USA is going really good. We got Marty on the last tapings. They're like, you got Marty on the last tapings? Yeah. We had him. He did a run-in. It's really great. We're going to use him going forward.
We loved it. The whoop whoop thing was great.
The villain, I'm bringing him back to Japan probably for Super Juniors. Like, you know about Marty, right? Like, yeah, he's great. What about him? Like, you know about him, and like, you know what happened, right? In Europe a couple years ago. No. What happened? They're like, yeah, fucking 16-year-old girl, and allegations, speaking out, and like, what? Like, yeah, people are mad on Twitter about this. Really? Like, yeah. All right. Well, what do we do now? I don't know. Well, we got the tape. I guess we could scrap it. All right. I guess we should do that. Like, there's a chance that maybe, I don't know. Who knows if they even fucking knew about it,
Yeah. I don't know. Well, the Observer said that due to outside pressure and complaints from subscribers in New Japan World, the company made a decision not to air any of the Scurll content that was taped at the late January tapings and he won't be used going forward.
Well, we didn't like discuss it. It wasn't because we're afraid to discuss the issue, but it just didn't fit into the timeline of, like, by the time that news dropped, we'd already recorded our show.
Right.
And then by the time we recorded last week with Chris Samsa, it was like already starting to look like it's probably not going to happen. I do think, hats off to JCast, credit where credit's due. I think that they were one of the few that were like really leading that charge and kind of like putting some pressure on the company and their fan base. I know their Discord has a lot of like discussion about this sort of stuff too, and everyone on Twitter. So, I think people taking action online, that's a good thing. And I think that the fact the company listened is also a good thing, regardless of whether they were going to try to use the guy or not.
Right. Other things in news, we already talked about Okada, the report of his injury.
I've got some news. So it looks like this is a little unrelated, but I guess kind of related. So they just announced on Impact, Scott D'Amore has announced that Rich Swann and Moose are going to unify the Impact World and TNA World Heavyweight titles at Sacrifice on Saturday. And then the winner is going to fight Kenny Omega in a title versus title match at Rebellion on April 24th.
So Kenny has become an Impact champion.
So Kenny's going to be a Triple Crown champion.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Impact, FinJuice were victorious on Impact last week and are moving on to challenge for the title. So it will be David Finlay and Juice Robinson against the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, at Sacrifice.
Yep.
So just moving on to some last questions here and then recommended match of the
I guess
week.
one thing I should throw out there, there is now on the Tokon Shop Global merchandise, shirts and different merchandise for all of your favorite competitors on NJPW Strong. It looks like they've also kind of doubled down on several of the guys that are part of the NJPW Strong roster. I don't know if it means they're quote unquote signed or anything like that. But
I saw a bunch of them like tweeting out like graphics with them on them.
They're putting out banners that had their graphics that kind of like showcases that they're the guys that are featured on the show. I think it's sort of like a good faith sort of thing. So there was a Team Filthy shirt that I thought was really cool. I think it's made by the same guy that Daizon guy that we retweet sometime who does the 8-bit wrestling figures characters. I think that there's a Team Filthy shirt out there that I saw that was really sweet looking. It had all of their characters done in 8-bit. So yeah, check that out. And free plug, Tokon Shop Global is out there. You can probably get some get yourself like a, I don't know, Fred Rosser shirt. There is a Fred Rosser shirt.
Get you a LA Dojo shirt.
I'm not going to buy that. It just says LA Dojo. I can make that. I don't like buying shirts that I can literally make for like nothing, Let's answer these questions.
Yep. So Rainbow Slam Peg asked, he said, Evil vs. Naito in exploding barbed wire death match, yay or nay? What about if Dick Togo and his Garrote get blown up at the end?
I don't ever want to see Evil versus Naito again, so no.
Yeah, I don't care what the stip is. Yeah, no more Evil Naito. Oscar Rooney asks, he says, so I just noticed that all of LIJ have a darker skin tone. Was that on purpose when putting the team together or just coincidence?
It was us. I don't know. I think those boys just like hit the beach and the tanning beds together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it was a coincidence. Reddit user Mr. Bang Pop, he says, I don't know if you guys caught the Shaq appearance on Dynamite last week, but it popped ratings and he was surprisingly competent in the ring. He was able to keep the crowd engaged and even deliver a safe powerbomb. It made me think Shaq could be a novelty attraction to sell out a low-level Corkin show when the pandemic subsides. If you guys had to book 2 NJPW wrestlers against Shaq and a partner in a tag team match, who would you book? You are not allowed to pick Yano or Fale. We're assuming Shaq can run the ropes, do very basic moves, and work with Gaijin in the locker room to bridge communication gaps.
Well, the first thing I'd like to throw out there, Shaq should never be on a low-level anything kind of show, especially not a Cork and Hall show. There's literally only one place that you should be booking Shaq if you're New Japan Pro Wrestling.
The Dome?
It's the Tokyo Dome, some stadium. Like, he is... it's okay. So this shit's funny. So I've mentioned how there's a lot of like egregious stuff on like Facebook, especially in these like New Japan Facebook groups. And I think like the fan base in say like New Japan Reddit is much deeper, much more knowledgeable, but like on Facebook, it's the Wild West. And this person was talking shit about AEW, which it's funny because that's like pretty much all I see on those is like people just shitting on AEW because they're, I don't know, butthurt or whatever.
Yeah.
But one of them were talking about how they're like, these people are a joke, just like booking celebrities and having, exploding barbed wire death matches. That's why I like New Japan. They're sports centric. They're just classic, they don't do that shit. And like, I just commented on it and I was like, anyone with a deep knowledge of New Japan or Puro would never post this. This is embarrassing. Like, this company has had so many freak show and celebrity matches over the years that like people just, modern fans don't know and don't.
Right.
And they've had multiple exploding barbed wire death matches, double hell time bomb death matches. Like they've done, I think, three of them for sure. Off the top of my head, they've done
there was the first Jingu show they did back in the day.
They've done, they were all Onita and Chono, Onita, Great Nita versus Great Muta, and then they did Onita against, I think it was Choshu. Pretty sure it's Choshu. Might be Tenryu. It's hard to know, one or the other. But yeah. If you have Shaq, you don't put him on a cork and haul. What the fuck? No. You do the dome.
Right.
It's a fucking star. Or you do like some big arena,
Right.
Saitama Super Arena or some shit like that. I don't know.
I think if I was booking it, I would do Shaq and Moxley against Jay White and Kenta.
I don't know about this one. It's a hard one to do. Okay, I guess I'll go Shaq and Okada. No, Shaq and Tanahashi against I don't know. Will Ospreay and Great O'Khan.
There you go.
Yeah, that's fine, I guess. I don't know.
Next few questions here from Viking Pain. He says, Yo has gone completely dark on social media. Could this be the beginning of a return and a gimmick change? United Empire heel Yo.
Yeah, someone else did this in the not so, far off past when they kind of made their return. They like went kind of dark on social media. It also could mean bad things.
Yeah, like he's trying to clear some stuff up.
I was just thinking like maybe he's not coming back. I'm not trying to throw that evil out in the world, but I mean, you just never know.
Right.
Like maybe his injury is very serious or maybe something's going on, but more than likely it probably does signify that he's returning, and there's a possibility it could mean a gimmick change. So, I mean, yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that.
He also asked, with Chase Owens continuing to carry the Texas Heavyweight Championship around and calling himself the champion, do you guys think there would be potential in using it as a secondary title on NJPW Strong to give guys something to chase and to fight for whenever the U.S. title isn't around?
I guess.
I mean, I don't think so. I think this.
It's the $1 million belt.
Right. It's
the FTR title.
It's a gimmick just to get Chase over, give him something to do, add to his character. I do think you could do a storyline where maybe you get somebody from Texas or somebody that's like, you didn't earn the title. I'm going to beat you for that title. You have them challenged, but it's not an official title, so they beat him. But he was like, well, it's not sanctioned.
It should be Jack Stain, the last holder of the title. I never dropped that title to you, boy.
And so, he gets beat, but he never gives the title over because it's not sanctioned or whatever it is. It's a gimmick belt for him to kind of just be like a character piece, something additional to him.
Yeah, man. It's the FTR title. It's the $1 million belt. What are some other gimmick titles like that? Doesn't matter. That's what it is. It's Zack Ryder's Internet Championship.
Right, Internet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He also asked, how triggered is Young Boy right now that Stardom's All-Star Dream Cinderella outsold New Japan's 49th anniversary? Are Tam and Julia bigger stars than Ibushi and Tanahashi? Is it time to open the real Forbidden Door and bring women into New Japan? I think a Stardom NJPW crossover wouldn't have any dud pairings like with NJPW/AEW and would be far more explosive than any NJPW AEW matches. Old Man Christian couldn't get interruption from the crowd, but you can get Maya Iwatani. you can bet that Mayu Iwatani will get an earth-shattering boom inside the arena whenever she shows up. The fireworks would be insane.
That's not true. It's not true. I'd be fine with it, but like, come on, let's be real here. Mayu Iwatani is gonna get earth-shattering Road Warrior level pop from a New Japan audience. That's not happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The same way how, like, I don't know. I mean, most big stars in New Japan are probably, it's the number one company. So yes, if they showed up in a Stardom arena, probably be a big deal, but it wouldn't be as big of a deal, I don't think, as you'd like imagine it to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Liger shows up at those shows and does commentary. Like no one's fucking like, freaking out over that shit,
Right.
They're different audiences. Now, I do agree that there's less barrier of entry for the fans because they're both domestic products to them, versus AEW. I don't know how accessible AEW is in Japan. I don't know what the visibility is, what TV or, social media they're on or whatever. So, but at the same time, so many of the guys in AEW wrestled in Japan and are well known.
Right. Kenny, the Bucks, Jericho, Mox, Archer.
Also, when you say open the forbidden door, here's the thing. Women in New Japan, I'm cool with it. We've talked about it on the show. It's happened many times in the past. Do I think it could be like an untapped market? Like, is there a market for it? I do think there is. Do I think that they should work together and do shows together? Yes. And I think in America, you're going to definitely see that once things calm down, going forward. I think it's for sure happening here. But in Japan, he's saying that there wouldn't be any dud matches. Well, what do you mean? Because when you're talking about AEW versus New Japan, you're actually talking about the wrestlers fighting each other.
Right.
When you're talking about Stardom in New Japan, you're talking about them just having their own matches on a co-promoted show. You're not going to see Jungle versus Ishii. Okay? It's just not happening.
We're not going to get Mayu versus Okada?
Yeah, there's not going to be a Mayu and Okada versus Julia and Jay White. Like, that's not happening. So, what are we really talking about here,
Yeah, I think most of it's kind of a troll question just because of the attendance thing.
I'm not triggered about the attendance. I don't go. Bro, it's 300. It's 300. It's not a big deal. And like I'd be perfectly fine. I think that like women's wrestling needs to be a much bigger deal and it needs to be focused on. And I would be super stoked if it ever got anywhere near the level it was in the 90s or the 80s. And it's not. Let's be clear. But they're making strides. They're growing exponentially with the Stardom brand, especially since Bushiroad took over. So it's great. It's awesome, and I'm all for it. And, like, would I be mad if Stardom became bigger than New Japan? No, I don't give a fuck. Do you know what I care about? I care about New Japan having bangers and great storytelling and good wrestling. I don't care about what anybody else does. This is the product that I like, and I just want them to succeed and keep going. I don't care if like AEW or WWE is bigger than them because that doesn't affect me in any way. You know what I mean?
I think he was asking more money Stardom to go for your gimmick of not liking women's wrestling.
Well, yeah, but it's not real though. I do like women's wrestling, like sometimes. I like it when it's better. When it's better than the men's wrestling or as good. Very often, a lot of times over the years, it hasn't been. That's not to say it's not always the case. A lot of Joshi is like fucking incredible.
Right.
Like, I fucking love like, Manami Toyota and shit
and
like
Bull
that.
Nakano.
Oh yeah, and Aja Kong.
Yeah.
But I think that part of the thing where he's like there'd be a bunch of dud pairings, like, come on, New Japan AEW, that sounds fucking awesome.
Well, I think he was playing off of being a dud explosive.
Oh, I see. Some wordplay.
Yes. But speaking of the explosive,
I do think Christian I don't think Christian's a good signing for that company.
Yeah, I like Christian.
I like Christian too.
I was a big fan of when he came over to TNA, like this run there, but I do think, AEW has a lot of talented youth and talented guys that have not been exposed to the mainstream that should be focusing on.
Bro, they got a lot of olds.
Yeah.
Daniels, Jericho, Big Show, Sting, Matt Hardy. I know there's more.
Now Christian. Luther.
Oh, shit, Luther. Bro, that's a
Billy
lot.
Gunn.
Billy Gunn, yes. You know, like there's like 10 dudes that are like mad old from like a really old generation that like the thing, like I feel like if you want to bring in Christian, then you need to cycle Matt Hardy out or some shit. Like there's just too many of them.
Yeah. But speaking of the explosive, Muzza asks, which was worse, Revolution's big explosion or Yoshihashi's loose explosion?
What's he talking about? What's Yoshihashi's loose explosion? I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Well, I remember didn't he used to be called like loose explosion or something like that?
Maybe that was his nickname, but I don't know. That's a terrible question, Mezza.
He also says, I've been watching a lot more Noah recently. What are some of your favorite New Japan versus Noah matches?
I don't know. I've got quite a few. I mean, do you have any that you can think of?
Marufuji against Devitt.
Yep. That whole series is awesome.
Yeah. Marufuji versus Okada.
Yep. Both of those matches are fucking fantastic. This one's kind of tough, though, because you kind of got to, like, I guess you got to define what you mean when you say Noah versus New Japan. Are you talking about contracted wrestlers? Are you talking about, like, for instance, like, do they have to be working for Noah and New Japan at the time of the match? Are you talking about crossover specifically, like, between the two companies? Because, I mean, like, for instance, I could throw out, like, Kensuke Sasaki and Kenta Kobashi, but, like, Sasaki, like, represented New Japan in a sense, but, like, he wasn't working there when that match happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or, like, when, like, Suzuki-gun was in Noah, does that count? Because I don't think they were even technically fully contracted by New Japan when that was going on. You know, I think they were working for Noah. So that's the tough part. But with all that being said, the matches you mentioned, I would definitely agree with. Suzuki versus Sugiura when he was during his GHC title reign in Noah in like 2015. That match, I don't know if it counts, but that match fucking rules. Jun Akiyama versus Tenzan, the G1 final that we reviewed here on this show a while back with Chris. That match rules. Yuji Nagata versus Kenta Kobashi in Noah when he challenged for the GHC title. Liger versus Kanemaru for the GHC junior title is probably Liger's best Noah match. One of Kanemaru's best matches. It's awesome. Tanahashi and Go Shiozaki had a really good match at Wrestle Kingdom. And I know Gota and Sugiura had two matches, one in 2010 and one in 2012 at the Dome for New Japan. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Go Shiozaki in Noah is really great. And then the last one I'd throw out there is like Kenta Kobashi versus Masahiro Chono in Noah. Or no, I'm sorry, in New Japan. That one's at the Dome. It's like from 2003. You know, it's funny. Dave gave it like 3.5, but it's got like an 8 point something on Cage Match. I love the match because like Kenta Kobashi just fucks up Chono. Fucks him up. It's great.
Next question's here from Dom Homie 101. He says, if New Japan liking to bring in names like Jericho and Moxley, what are your thoughts on New Japan bringing in guys like Sting and Christian Cage? And what would be some ideal matches for both guys in New Japan?
I don't know if this is a joke because I'm not sure if he's like, is this real or no?
I don't know. I would not bring in.
I wouldn't bring in either guy.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if I don't know, because I can't imagine anything they're going to do with. I like AEW, okay, and I've pretty much been like impressed with most of the things they do, except for this last pay-per-view sucked.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a single thing that they're going to do with Christian Cage that I care about on any level. So I can't think of anything that I would want to see him do in New Japan at all. Maybe if he gets more established in AEW. For Sting shouldn't be wrestling.
Yeah. There's no way Sting could do a match in New Japan.
The only like kind of match that I'd want to see him do in Japan at all is like maybe him and Muto. Like, you know, an old school, like feel good, sub 10 minute like reunion match that's not like that serious, you know?
Yeah.
That's the only thing I could like see him doing that I'd care about.
Yeah. Other than that, yeah, no, he's good where he's at. He says, non-NJPW question, what are you guys' thoughts on the Omega vs. Moxley main event from Revolution and Aftermath? To me, it was a good match with a wrestle crap ending.
Well, I think me and Jeremy probably, I don't know, I think we kind of have similar views, but maybe different opinions a little bit. Like, I thought the match was well worked, but I wasn't into it at all.
Yeah, I was into the match. I thought bell to bell, it was a great match. I liked the explosives that were on the ropes. The explosive that were on the outside wasn't that great. And then obviously the ending was just ridiculous. It was embarrassing.
It was fucking bad.
Awful. They hurt Mox, Kingston. It was overall.
They hurt their whole brand.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, overall, it was not a great pay-per-view.
The thing is, like, they could have gotten away with doing this match without they didn't advertise the time bomb until like a couple days before. Like we had no idea they were doing a time bomb death match. That you know what I mean?
All right.
The first time I knew they were doing one for sure was when Kenny tweeted out the drawing of what they were doing, you know? But I'll grant this aspect of it. The explosions on the ropes looked okay. Like, they weren't embarrassing completely, but like, I've seen so many of these matches and I've seen so many guys like take the charges on the ropes and they're always fine. It is very, you know, quote unquote safe. Like, yeah, there could be some cosmetic issues, but it's pretty minor, man, really minor. And they set it up so that like the barbed wire was on the inside, set away from the ropes, and then far on the outside were the charges. And when they hit the ropes, the charges would go off and they would blast away from the ropes. So these guys were never getting touched by the explosives. Now, I'm not a sadist and saying I want the guys to get hurt, but like, if you're going to do the gimmick, you need to do the gimmick. And the gimmick is when you hit the ropes, you get burnt by the charges, even if it's a little bit. But they were so far away that like Kenny Omega's wearing a fucking white shirt and there's
no black marks.
There's no black gunpowder, nothing. There's nothing on it. But then he's selling it and he's writhing around on the ground like, oh. I thought they tried their best to work this match similar to like an FMW style like Onita, and I appreciated the logic and psychology. And I thought that they went out and tried and really like performed, and you know, they both bladed. They did a hell of a performance, but I thought those charges were horrible. And every time it went off, it was not exciting for me. Maybe for other people it was, but like for people who've ever seen this match, it was like, this sucks, you know? And it took me out of it like pretty heavily. It would be like this. It'd be like if two guys promised that they were going to go out there and have a never style match, and then they're like not only just missing, but like not hitting each other, and you can see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they're selling it hard. I was like, fuck, like this sucks. Little did I know how bad the rest of the
ending. Oh my gosh.
Now here's the thing. I was watching this with Zach Porter, good friend of the show. Shout out to Zach. And like when me and him have both seen a lot of these matches, and I was like, where are the explosives going to come from? Because we kind of have trained eyes, and I was like, I can see the charges on the ropes, and I can see a couple pyros around the ring, and I was like, that's not enough. And I was like, that's all they have. And I was like, that's going to shoot up literal fireworks. But like these matches, when they have time bombs, they don't shoot up fireworks. They shoot up fireballs that explode orange big with big clouds that engulf the fucking ring. When I heard that they were doing it in Daly's place and not the arena, I thought that was like a little bit weird.
Yeah, I thought they were going to do it at the stadium.
Yeah, me too. And like they tried to blame it on some sort of like malfunction. I'm telling you right now, there's no malfunction. The equipment that they had set out there did exactly what that equipment is capable of doing. They did not. Usually there are giant tins with explosives in it because that's what you need to do this kind of match. Like, you can't have an explosion without actually having an explosion.
Right.
And they went out there and like set off like the kind of like fireworks that you'd get at like the stand on 4th of July. It was bullshit. Oh God, it was so bad.
It was horrible. It was just a horrible way to cap off a pay-per-view.
They didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is though, it's very costly to do the kind of explosions and, pyrotechnics that are needed for this type of match. Furthermore, when Onita did these matches, he drew like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people, outdoor stadiums, big attendances and arenas. And, you need big gates, $1 million gates to necessitate this kind of match. They didn't have to do this kind of match. I talked about it a few weeks ago on the show and people disagreed with me. And I said, the story didn't necessitate this. It didn't really kind of logically even really make too much sense why Kenny was even challenging him to this.
Right.
And then finally, when they did it, they didn't do it. Like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. Like, that's the one thing you got to ensure. If you're going to do it, you do it on a major scale. And they didn't do it on a major scale. And I don't know. Maybe part of it was a cost thing. Like, Daly's place, I think they had like 1,300 people there.
1,300 people, yeah.
I don't know how much they made off the pay-per-view. I'm sure it's a lot. But, like, I don't know if that's enough to, like, maybe it was a fire marshal, fire code sort of thing. But it's like, bro, don't book yourself into this fucking corner when it was unnecessary. Nobody was saying to Tony Khan and AEW, you gotta settle this shit in an exploding barbed wire death match. That when they said it, everyone's like, what the fuck? It came out of nowhere.
Right.
They set themselves up for failure, and it was a fantastic failure. I mean,
right. They overpromised and underdelivered.
Bro, it was Shockmaster level.
It was.
It was bad. And then I'm just gonna say this. I saw like, okay, we threw a little jab out there at this because it was funny, but like I did see like some other reputable New Japan Twitter sites and fan sites that were just like, I love it. I love it. I love to see these guys fail. I love to hear the boos. Yo, go fuck yourself, dude. Like, all you guys who did that shit, because that's not what this is about. Like, I'm tired of the fucking, like, complaining and, like, I don't know, man. There's this weird sect of the fan base that, like, I'm just going to address it. Like, they've created these weird fucking false narratives in their minds about this company and that company, and they think
right. In order to be a true New Japan fan, you have to hate AEW. And
I'm not even saying you got to like it, but like, why the fuck would you root against this company? Like, I'm not saying don't take these guys to task for that match. Maybe you don't like the booking sometimes or whatever. That's fine. But like, it's the only true alternative we've had to WWE on a major level for the last 20 years. New Japan's never going to get to this level because the way they do business and the way that their business model is set up, it's never going to happen. Like, we need to face the facts that, like, this is the one hope and shot at having a competitive wrestling business industry. And, like, the way things are going with WWE and them selling all this shit off to third parties and stuff, I think when Vince dies, like, who knows what the fuck's going to happen there.
Right.
It's scary. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, this hater shit is so played out and so fucking corny. And if you're one of those fucking haters, you are corny as fuck. You are the corniest ass motherfuckers. Seriously. And like, I'm not even like an AEW mark. I'm just like, dude, come on. Like, this is so fucking corny. It's a bad look. You look silly.
Right. It's just, we talk about all the time, like defending a company.
Yeah. Don't defend a company. Why are you finding your identity in New Japan?
Like, dude, we do a New Japan podcast. We've been doing this for over 170 weeks now. We come out here 3 hours breaking this company down. But
Sukabayashi's not cutting us a check.
We don't identify ourselves with New Japan. Like, when they do something stupid, we go out, we bury it and take them to task. Like, our identity is not wrapped up in this company.
Yeah, there's some people out there getting hurt that need to re-examine their lives, re-examine their fandom, prioritize some shit. This doesn't make sense, you know?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Everyone who thinks they know what happened, you don't fucking know. You know what I mean? There's people that think that they know how the split between the elite guys and New Japan went down. And you know what? Where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm sure both sides did
somewhere in the middle of the truth.
Yeah. Like, I don't believe this thing where, like, when I hear Dave and he really tries to spin it in the defense of the elite, that's the way it is. But I really don't believe these corny ass New Japan motherfuckers who are like, these guys, they didn't do business the right way. They bamboozled the company. And I'm like, bro, there's plenty of evidence that there's like negative on both sides. Very clearly. All you got to do is just follow the breadcrumb trails. But like everyone who thinks they know, you don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows. But you know what I do know? I want to see these fucking matches. I want to see these companies work together. I want to see a thriving wrestling company. I don't want to see AEW fucking fail. And I'm not glad that they put on a shitty product on Sunday night.
Yeah, I was very disappointed in that pay-per-view. And yeah, they got a lot of stuff to work on going into Double or Nothing in May.
Yeah, but then again, they haven't been around for 49 years like New Japan. You know, you think New Japan hasn't had some fucking failures? My God, go back and watch fucking Inoki job to Vader and talk about like a failure of a company like that. This company got fucking banned from their spiritual home, started a fucking riot and shit. Go watch some Inokiism. Like, I've seen some terrible shit from this company over the years, and I'm still, like, watching it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the corniest shit.
I mean, all the horrible stuff that WWE did for years until we finally...
WWE sucks. But, like, you know, I don't... carry that same energy, too. Like, you know, it's funny. It's, like, that same subsect of fans, they're not doing that shit. They're not, like, they're not, like... they're not, like, oh... Friday Night SmackDown, Orton was throwing up black blood. Love to see it, you know?
Right.
They're just, like, butthurt.
Yeah. I don't get it.
It's so stupid. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing if you think that you're an ambassador for this brand and you conduct yourself that way, you are actually a detriment to the fandom of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and you're embarrassing. So you should stop doing that shit. It's not a good look. It's a bad fucking look.
Yeah.
You look like one of those Fed Defense Squad people that will defend whatever
anything and whatever.
And whatever Vince does, you know, and doesn't use any logic when they criticize New Japan or AEW. Like that's you look like a tribalistic jerk. It's stupid. Ugh.
Well, we're getting ready to get to 3 hours here, so gonna skip the fight questions this week and get to recommended match of the week. So last week, Chris Samsa recommended to us to watch Nakamura versus Bad Luck Fale, the New Japan Cup Finals from 2014.
I really enjoyed this match. I hadn't seen it in years. Rewatching it, you know, it's kind of what you always expect out of a Nakamura versus Fale match, but the moment that really makes this match is when Fale goes for the grenade, Nakamura goes for the jumping armbar, and in the midst of that, while he's on his back, Fale falls forward and accidentally headbutts him, and his nose just explodes,
it's leaking. Yeah,
and it's very legendary. Like this is the one time where, you know, Nakamura really wore the crimson mask. And from that point, the match just jumps up in energy. I mean, hard fucking strikes from both guys. But Nakamura just killing this guy with a bombardment of Bombay knees.
Yeah, destroyed this man with knees.
And then just fucking took him out. Also, like, you know, it was just good to see, like, Nakamura in his prime again.
Dude, yeah, this match made me miss, like, New Japan Nakamura so much. Like, this match was so awesome.
It made me miss, like, Mobile Fale, who, like, gave a shit and was trying hard, too.
Yeah, man, it was in great shape. Like, Nakamura was so much swag. You know, you had the whole Bull Club out there that he had to kind of overcome, and they got tossed to the back, and then, yeah, overcoming his face being exploded and having to beat Fale. It was a great kind of David and Goliath story, and just, you know, one of the better Fale matches you'll see out there.
I agree. they had 3 matches that year. They feuded for the IC title throughout that year. In my opinion, this is the best match they ever had. It's one of the better Fale matches that Fale was ever involved in. And yeah, it was really great seeing Nakamura kind of overcome the obstacles, the numbers game, the, physical ailment, and just the size of Fale, and put this man down and win the New Japan Cup. And I think afterwards he was the only guy that ever challenged for the IC title.
Right, instead of challenging for the IWGP.
Now that shit's gone. That's cool. But yeah, I really enjoy this. I'd go 4 stars on it.
Yeah, that's what I'd go also. So my pick for recommended match of the week is Hiroki Goto versus Hiroshi Tanahashi from the New Japan Cup 2012 finals.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen this. I've seen a lot of the Goto Tanahashi matches. There's one from 2010 that stands out as like truly incredible, like near 5 stars. I think this one's also up there. I'd have to watch it. I might not have ever seen this.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the cage match ratings. So a very highly rated matchup here. Goto and Tanahashi always have, like you mentioned, great matches, great chemistry. So
awesome.
Should be a fun one to check out. And that's going to wrap things up for this week's episode of Keeping It Strong Style. Next week, we'll be back to review more New Japan Cup action. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting suplex.com/donate. Click the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at Jeremy L. Donovan. The show is at KI Strong Style. The network is at Social Suplex. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Social Suplex. In the Wrestling Squared Circle group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I am the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. You can also check out our Discord server. The link for that's in the show notes. And you can check out all the other shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rachel Latta and James Boyd. We have the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show from Scotland. The Grave Consequences Podcast with Caleb and Maserati. 8-Bit Suplex with Josh Number 2 and Sandy. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. And the Great Match Generator with Danny. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Don't be a corny New Japan fan.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.